The Maya were an honor-based society, and the fights take place not just in regular space, but in terms of all the sorcery stuff will take place in supernatural space. And you'll get into these scenarios where these rulers will summon one and then summon another one, almost like Pokemon, and they'll go after each other. And you'll actually have images of these things fighting on ceramics of like flaming skeletal flying creature versus owl with a head attached to it, fighting each other, right? To me, that's a lot more interesting than the alien stuff.
What if the ancient civilizations of the Americas weren't primitive at all, but operating on a completely different level of intelligence? Because thousands of years ago, in the jungles of Mesoamerica and the highlands of South America, people were engineering concrete, building earthquake-proof cities that are still standing to this day, and developing writing systems sophisticated enough to record history in detail. They were drinking chocolate not as a treat, but as a currency, using psychoactive substances in rituals designed to break the mind and rebuild it, and reshaping entire ecosystems, cutting down forests so aggressively that they may have altered the climate themselves and contributed to their own collapse. This isn't a lost world of simplicity, it's a world of power and hierarchy and deeply complex belief systems centered around death and transformation and the afterlife. And today, we are joined by Dr. James Fitzsimmons, a brilliant storyteller and an expert in the field to explain everything about these people. He's a Mesoamerican archaeologist whose work uncovers how these civilizations lived, the people in them, what their actual life was like, what they believed, and how much of their story we're only just beginning to understand. If you are a fan of lost civilizations, of actual cities in South and Central America that we still haven't discovered, cities of gold like El Dorado, and ancient technology, well, this is the episode for you. So, sit back, relax, and welcome to Canva. Dr. Fitzsimmons, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks. Thanks for having me. This is a pleasure. I love the tent.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I'm glad I did it just so the archaeologists that I meet will feel at home. Okay. I wanted to make a big campaign tent.
This is so much bigger than any tent I've ever had. The tents that I get, or the tents that I'm used to, are sort of, they're not quite coffins. We do have archaeologists who sort of sleep in these sort of really small ones, but
really?
But this is a big one.
Yeah. No, this is going to be a nicer experience than probably what you're used to deep in the jungles of Guatemala.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a bigger tent, and it's closer to coffee shops. So
it is. It is.
So don't worry.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to chat with you. I'm fascinated and sort of weirdly obsessed with Central American history, specifically as it relates to, Olmec, Maya, Aztecs, and all the little ones in between that I don't even know that much about. And there's so many things I want to jump into, from lost cities of gold that may or may not still be out there, to sort of like the history and the famous battles and the wars, as well as like the death and like ritualistic customs of many of these different people groups, and kind of like the occult nature of kind of how these like systems sort of operated and like the stories they told themselves. But the thing I want to start on first is, I was asking this before. What are some of the technological features of some of these ancient groups that blow your mind that they could have ever existed in that time?
Sure. Well, the thing I think when we were talking earlier, that sort of the first thing that came to mind was there's a pot at a site called Rio Azul in Guatemala that actually has a screw top. As far as I know, it's the first and only screw top that exists in the Americas, but it might even be the earliest screw top that there is.
Like literally like a water bottle?
Well, it was a chocolate pot, so it was for drinking chocolate. And in Mesoamerica at least, chocolate was not in bar form. They didn't have stabilizers, so it was actually drunk in sort of liquid form, right? And it wasn't like Swiss Miss chocolate, nothing like that. It wasn't like that. It was actually really bitter and kind of gross, actually.
Right.
But the reason why it was important was because it was hard to grow. Chocolate's a really finicky plant. And because at various points in time in Mesoamerican prehistory, it was actually being used, the beans were being used as the lowest denomination of currency. So if you, when you were drinking chocolate, it was not something you just sort of did in your house or something, right? You'd usually do it in front of a crowd. So you think of it as like conspicuous consumption, like, I'm going to flaunt my wealth. So think of like some guy, they've got like a chocolate pot. They've put all this labor into grinding, they've had someone put all this labor into grinding the beans down into a sort of a somewhat palatable form, right? They mix it with water. It's usually tepid water, sadly. They might put something in it like chili pepper or honey or something of that sort, right? And they drink it, and they drink in front of a crowd, and they just like upend it, like ha 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 ha, drink it, right? And it's conspicuous consumption, so it's sort of, I have this and you don't.
They were literally trying to just flex.
It's
like,
yes.
They're like, I'm drinking money.
Yes, it's drinking money. It'd be like smoking like $100 bills or something in front of people. That's
way.
what it is. Yeah. And so what I find really fun about this one pot is that it's a screw top, and so it's basically for storing this stuff. Kind of a fun little invention.
Is it possible to look that up? Like, what would you Google for that?
I guess you'd Google Rio Azul.
Rio,
R-I-O, Azul, A-Z-U-L.
Screw top.
Pot? Screw top pot, I guess is what it would be. Yeah.
I would love to see what this looks like.
Yeah.
And would this be for like transporting it?
I don't really know. I think that, the Rio Azul pot, as far as I know, was found in a burial. So it was actually buried with somebody.
And what year would this have been used roughly, if you had to estimate?
This Rio Azul, I want to say this is late early classic. So this is probably like 500 or so AD, somewhere on there, Common Era.
Wow.
500, 550, something like that. And as far as sort of other inventions, another invention might be it's rather humble, right? But like concrete. We were talking about concrete earlier.
Right.
The Maya did have a form of concrete. Yeah, there it is. There it is.
Wow.
Yeah. It's got like a thing, and then you push it down, and you lock it in place. It's like,
wow, it's really beautiful, actually.
No, they are beautiful.
Wow.
They are beautiful, right?
Like, this looks like something you would see in like someone's home today.
Yeah. So what's really funny also is that if you look in that image, on the bottom there on the left, there's writing. Right, the ancient Maya it was a writing system on the bottom. Yeah, on the bottom left. Yeah, there we go. Bottom left. That's the word for chocolate. That's cacao.
That's cacao.
Yeah,
it looks like a face.
It is. It's a little fish.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The original glyph for it is it's a fish. But the first part is ka, and then the second part is ka. It's another ka, and then the bottom part is wa, cacao. So that's where the word cacao comes from.
Oh, wow. Is it possible that the ancient version of sort of like this chocolatey drink had psychoactive effects?
It didn't. So one of the reasons why chocolate was actually being drunk as money is because it had caffeine in it. And it's, I'm drinking coffee right now, right?
Yeah.
People fought over this stuff. And while you might not think of people fighting over chocolate per se, people will fight over caffeine just fine, right? And if it's the only source of caffeine, which it was the only source of caffeine in the area, people definitely fought over it.
Right.
It was a precious resource. It's like, there's no coffee and there's no tea in the Americas, but there is chocolate. So they fight over it. Yeah.
So was it high doses of caffeine that would kind of make you like buzz a little bit?
I don't know. I imagine it would make you buzz. You're just drinking the raw. You're just drinking the like ground up beans, right? You're just drinking coffee, chocolate beans. In terms of psychoactive stuff, though, and weirdly enough, I was actually getting into this in my class. So I'm teaching this class called Sorcerer in Mesoamerica, and this class the other day we were talking about sort of psychoactive properties and things. The main psychoactive things were not actually sort of coffee or anything like or chocolate or anything like that. It was actually mushrooms. So they were mushrooms and probably tobacco. And I know you don't think of tobacco as having like major psychoactive properties, but as anyone who's ever sort of smoked a cigar and smoked it wrong has ever, it will tell you, no, that will knock you out. Like that'll knock you out.
Oh, dude. One time I went to the UAE and I smoked something called a medouah. I don't know if you've heard of this.
I don't.
It's basically just like a pipe and it's a tobacco.
Yeah.
And it's a very concentrated, like one hitter.
Yeah.
And so you're just supposed to like light it and just And dude, for like probably like 2 minutes, you're just like, you can't really move.
No.
Like it's just tobacco. There's nothing else. It's not peyote. It's not, like you just, and then for it's like a hard, like probably like 20 seconds, like my vision is just like spinning.
Yeah.
Like it felt like I was just like a I don't know, like a casino. Like it was just like everything moving around and I'm sitting on the couch and my whole body just gets all tingly. Yeah, this thing right here.
Yeah. No,
that knocked me out.
I've never had that, but yeah, if you inhale, that's why you're not supposed to inhale a cigar.
Well, this one you're supposed to inhale and it kind of feels amazing, I'll be honest with you.
For a couple of seconds, it might, right? But then you're just like boom, like done.
I came out of it after like 5 minutes where I was normal, but I was like, whoa. Like, if you're not ready, you might pass out.
Yes.
So they're ripping this back in the day, potentially. Not literally this, but a tobacco-dense concentrate that would basically give them that effect.
Yeah. So other sort of fun things. So you're talking about technology, right? So I mentioned concrete, right? And the concrete that they used that held together a lot of their buildings, it's a separate invention. It's not like it's gotten from the old world like that. It's their own concrete, right? So that's kind of an amazing thing. But back on this tobacco thing, one thing that's probably not all that commonly known is that actually they had cigars. So they actually were rolling cigars.
Just like how we would do them today.
Yeah. There's images of like Maya rulers and gods and things smoking cigars.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just like old mob bosses.
Yes.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a good like time travel place to go.
Yeah.
Like go back in time with like an old like Maya emperor.
Okay, so here's the thing about time travel, and you might find this sort of surprising to coming from an archaeologist. Like, the past is a terrible place. Like, people sometimes ask me, like, "Oh, would you want to get in a time machine and go back and such?" I might go back if it was like a hermetically sealed bubble. They can't see me. No one can hurt me. Nothing. I can't get sick. Maybe, right? Maybe for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But really, I would never want to go back because it's the odds of getting killed or getting sick, some sort of horrible disease, something happening, too high.
Really?
I would not want to. I don't want to see that stuff. Nope. I mean, I would. As I said, if I could see it and never be seen, never interact with anybody, but just like, view it and be completely safe, maybe. But other than that, no way. It's.
You wouldn't go just do like a little mescaline.
No, I think no, probably not. Okay, well, the thing is like, you can't really get Maya archaeologists or just academics more generally, right, to do this stuff and admit it.
Fair, that's a good point.
You can't get us to admit it, right? You can't just do this stuff and admit it. And it's not really a technology, but it's something that is really related to this. One of the chief ways that sort of tobacco and that sort of stuff was being taken, some of it's actually just being not just smoked, but actually sort of painted on the body, and that's being absorbed that way, right? But one of the other ways, especially with other kinds of psychoactives, is actually with an enema.
No.
Yes.
They're boofing it?
They are.
Come on,
They
dude.
are.
No
They
way.
are. They are. They are. And
like what kind of substance are they doing?
We don't have a good handle on that yet.
Is this like psilocybin, like mushrooms, or is it like peyote, or like?
It might be tobacco. I don't know.
How are they getting it up there?
So there's usually no. It's fine. No. I'll go there. I go there with my students all the time. It's fine. We talk about this sort of stuff, and like it's you'd think I'd be embarrassed to talk about it, but I've talked about it for so long that it's just sort of okay, fine, whatever. Usually what happens is there's someone in a, there's usually when you see it on ceramics, when people are sort of talking about this on ceramics or showing it on ceramics, it's usually a man. There's usually a woman behind him with what looks like a bladder of some sort, and just,
No way.
Yeah.
It's funny they make a woman do it. They're like, yeah, look, I'm going to boof this drug, but I'm not going to have my boys do it. That'd be crazy.
Well, maybe there are examples of this. I don't know. None come to mind. In part, one of the reasons why this sort of stuff comes up as sort of gendered is that it's oftentimes in connection with other things that are sort of mind altering, I guess. So, for example, you're talking about sort of technologies. Again, not exactly a technology, but still. They had saunas in the jungle. They had saunas, and
like sweat tents,
like sweat bath. Yeah, like a sweat bath. And it's very much like a sort of things that you might find in other parts, maybe in native North America or something like that, right? But these are buildings that would have there'd be like a box, and you get a bunch of rocks, you heat them up in the box, you stick them in the hot box, and you pour water basically over the rocks, and it fills up this really sort of small enclosed area, and you sort of sweat, right? And in these sweat baths, the idea was to throw yourself off balance as much as possible. And then basically break you down, sweat everything out, and then build you back up again. And so one of the reasons why these images of drugs and such are happening sort of in sweat baths is that it's part of that. There's a sexual component too. These things are almost like a Japanese onsen or something, like almost like a carnival, kind of atmosphere that, like around the sweat bath, and you go inside and you have all this sort of party stuff that happens, and then you get out. And the reason why I know enough about it is because there was a person way back in the day, and this is back in the 90s, who was on a field project with me who was actually specializing in sweat baths. And with the help of the Guatemalan government, we restored one of these sweat baths. And we had people, officials from the Guatemalan government came down, and we all took sweat baths together.
No way.
Minus all the drugs and the sex stuff. Yeah. Yeah. No.
Dr.
I swear. Like, we didn't do that, right? We didn't do that, right?
Convenient.
Well, no, but I will tell you this. I'll tell you this. We had these sweat baths, right? And you get in these sweat baths, and because you're in your 20s, it's always, and it's men and women, right? Taking these sweat baths. You sort of do these like kind of things like, well, how long can I hang out in there? How long can you hang out in like in this later? There's that kind of behavior.
Yeah, you get competitive.
You get competitive. This was at a site called Piedras Negras. And there it is, right? Actually, there's a drawing of it. I just saw it somewhere. I lost it. There it is. There's a sweat bath right there. Oh, and that's us on the left.
That's you?
Go back on the actual sweat bath. So left of that drawing where the drawing was. That's the project. Yeah.
That's you guys?
Yeah. I'm not in the photo, but that's us. Yeah.
That's convenient.
Yeah, that's us.
That's wild.
Yeah. And so you get a bunch of guys and they go in there and it's like, and what happens is, you drink a whole bunch of water, you go in, you hang there as long as possible, and you come out, and the jungle's air conditioned for like 20 seconds because it's like blazing hot in there.
Right.
And you get out, it's like air conditioned for like 20 seconds, and then usually some guy will like throw water on you or something, and and you drink a bunch of water and you go back in. That's sort of what it is.
Wow.
So these sweat baths were designed as basically places for sort of building, breaking the person down and building them back up. They were actually places for healing. And I don't know how much healing properties it actually would have, right? But what I would say is that at the time of the conquest, when the Aztecs do have these as well, when the Spanish come along and then the diseases come along, the first thing that people do is they crowd everybody in the sweat baths, and that just kills huge numbers of people because they go in there and they got smallpox.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh wow. And that just basically became like an incubator for this virus to spread.
And so the indigenous healing stuff, that idea basically just destroyed a lot of people.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, tragic, but also so interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can do that anymore today. I mean, we had the governor of Guatemala with us, like folks from the officials from doing this. I don't know if this is nowadays, 2026. I'm not sure that's okay in 2026, but in 1999, 2000, it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so as far as like the drug use would be done in a place like this historically.
Yeah. So it would be done outside.
So you'd
have like a walled compound around that. And then all the various things that would be happening, the prostitutes, all sorts of things outside that would be happening out there. And then when you wanted to sort of go in, you'd go in and sort of come out of that. And the idea was that like once you got out of there, like you were sort of a new person. And I will say just from personal experience, yeah, you come out of that. And first of all, you're really tired because you've been sweating and it's just like hazy, right? But you do feel like renewed. And sweat baths were all over the Americas, all over Mesoamerica. And everything from like the elites to commoners had sweat baths.
Wow.
Everybody was doing it. Yeah.
Now, I want to talk about like some of the spiritual technology, you know what I mean? Like ayahuasca and things like that. But before we move on, I wanted to know about some of the other like technical elements about kind of how these things work. So like you had mentioned concrete before.
Yeah.
Are there any like building structures that you look at and you go, I don't understand how this was built?
It's not so much that I don't understand how it's built. So one of the things that you wind up doing as an archaeologist is that you're working in these places, and we had this idea that like you go to these sites and they're pristine and sort of you excavate these things. That's not how it is. Looting is an enormous problem in the Americas, an enormous problem in Central America. I worked at places where, my first day on the job, like 80% of the buildings have holes in them because people are looking for whatever, gold. There's no gold actually, but they're looking for wealth, for anything they can sell. And I don't blame them. I really don't. In some places you're sort of dealing with really high poverty levels, and
Sure.
you're trying to feed your family. So I don't blame, like I would do the same thing. Right. But you go to these places and they're not pristine. And so Many of the buildings have tunnels in them already dug. They have pits dug in them already. And so you can see the profile of the building. Like you look at the building, you can see exactly like how many floors there were, what was inside, like pretty much the entire cross section. So I don't normally think about like, oh, how they did this. Or at least, technically how they did this. I do sometimes think to myself, how did they get people to do this, right? So how did they? So were they drafted into it? Is it a corvée labor situation where you have a labor tax? In lots of parts of the Americas, you have a labor tax. Is it slavery? There's a lot of that I wonder about. Sure, the actual buildings themselves, not so much. I would say this, before we started, we were talking about sort of stuff in South America. And one of the technologies in South America that is a rather amazing one is you have some buildings. They had mortar, but you have some buildings where way back in the day, Spanish conquistadores report, you couldn't even put a knife blade between these two rocks, right? Because they're fit together so tightly. And that is an amazing thing. I've been to these places. I've seen sort of these rocks. I've tried it, not with a knife, but with a credit card.
What's the name of that site?
So the site called Tiwanaku. It's in South America. It's in Bolivia. It's beautiful. Tiwanaku is beautiful. Really spiritual place, actually, right? And the buildings, when you get there, you sort of think to yourself, you look at some of the stones and you're like, is this a joke? Like it looks like it's just modern, like made out of... looks like something that just was cut with an industrial saw or something, right? But it's not. And the rocks are organized such that they actually are three-dimensional. So there's a block, right? But the block will have pieces in it. Yes, Tiwanaku. Yep. That's the Gate of the Sun. I will say the Tiwanaku Gate of the Sun is a lot smaller in reality than you think.
Really?
Yeah, it looks really big, right? But then you see someone standing next to it, and you get there, and you're like, oh, this is actual size. Like it's really small.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. That is a surprising thing about this is you see these gates, and you're like, oh, these amazing things. Like, no, they're actually really small. But you see these blocks, and they fit together, and they're done three-dimensionally. So you have a block, and there'll be like knobs on the outside, and there'll be another block that's perfectly cut to fit those knobs. And they'll lock them together Jenga style, And the reason why the Tiwanaku folks are doing this ostensibly is because they're trying to earthquake-proof their settlements. Some of these buildings are earthquake-proof, so they'll move a little bit. So if the ground shakes or anything like that, it'll move a little bit. The Inca actually stole that idea essentially, and so we now attribute it to the Inca. That the Inca had stuff like this, but realistically speaking, it was Tiwanaku who had it first.
Wow,
and that's an amazing thing. I'm sort of having these earthquake-proof buildings.
Yeah, I mean it's genius.
It is genius. Yeah.
I mean, what is the most grand structure that you've seen in your travels, specifically in this part of the world?
You mean in South America or Mesoamerica? I can pick. I can do both.
Let's start with Mesoamerica.
Okay, start with Mesoamerica. Most grand structure. Oh. It's got to be Teotihuacan. That's got to be the archaeological site of Teotihuacan. It's got to be Pyramid of the Sun. So the Pyramid of the Sun. So Teotihuacan was this. It's not Maya. It's not Aztec. It's actually its own civilization. It's just called Teotihuacan, right? Teotihuacan.
They're their own people.
Yeah, Teotihuacan, right? Their own people, and Teotihuacan. Was based in central Mexico. It was basically right now it's about an hour north of like the epicenter of Mexico City, right? And if you look really carefully, you'll see maybe little dots. Those little dots are people.
Oh, wow.
Teotihuacan is the largest, for its time at least, and say in the 6th century, it was the I think it was the 6th largest city in the world at the time. Nothing compared to it. It was enormous. Maybe 125,000 people,
wow.
Something like that. Maybe 150, something like that. Quite large. Yeah, those little tiny dots are people. Just an amazing center. That building, I think, pretty much up until the Industrial Revolution, was the largest building in the Americas. Like the tallest building in the Americas. It's the size of the Great Pyramid at Giza.
Really?
It's not quite as tall, but it's enormous. You go there, it's like, the Death Star or something. It's enormous. So those are people. Yeah, it's just so big.
Wow.
Right?
And this was built around what time roughly?
So Teo is It's early classic, so late pre-classic. So like, think like it's starting to be built maybe about, I don't know, 1st century BC. Collapses roughly around 600, something like that. 650 starts to go downhill. Well, it's already going downhill by 650, but let's just say around there.
Wow.
But at in the 6th century at least, it's the it's the 6th largest city in the world. You basically have like some places in the Middle East. Obviously, you have Constantinople, a place like that. But this is right up there. It's right up there with them. It's huge.
And so from 600 until like the 1800s, it's like the tallest building in the Americas?
It's the largest thing.
Wow.
Yeah. It is massive. You go there, it is massive. And, I love Teo. I do. I love the site. Just the amount of labor it would have taken to build something like that is just, it's mind-boggling.
They must have been building for hundreds of years.
You'd be surprised what people can do. You'd be surprised what people can do when they're they're facing a labor tax or under duress. You'd be surprised. I don't know how long that would have taken to be built, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's hundreds of years. I'd say it's sort of one of the things about Mesoamerican centers that I think is really cool that people don't realize is that they're like one of those Matryoshka dolls.
Mm-hmm.
So each building is like a Matryoshka doll. So it starts off really small, and then the next king or ruler or whoever will build on top of it. They won't destroy it. They'll just build on top of it. And so what you're seeing here in a lot of Mesoamerican centers is like the last phase before it fell apart. So they're just building one on top of another one, on top of another one, on top of another one. And you get these rulers that are almost competing with their ancestors over this. They're like, oh, this is my ancestors' stuff. I'm gonna make it bigger, right? So you compete with them, but you outdo them.
Right.
It's like, oh, you honor them, but like, I'm also better.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of that going on.
Oh, that's interesting. It also, I guess, helps with the building that you already have a head start.
Yeah. So that by far is and for Mesoamerica, that's the biggest, that's the most impressive building.
What happened to the civilization?
Teotihuacan. So Teotihuacan, another sort of not so common factoid about Teotihuacan. It's not in academic circles, but it's not so common. And it's actually in the book too. Teotihuacan is it's almost an imperial power. It goes around and it basically starts stomping other parts of Mesoamerica and invading other places. If it's not invading with military, it's certainly meddling in the affairs of other places. And so Teotihuacan, at one point, there's some folks from Teotihuacan that make their way into the Maya area and take over parts of the Maya area. Actually, just like flat out, like take over, and they set up shop there. They install Teotihuacan person from Teotihuacan. That person marries a Maya woman, and they start dynasties. And so that's kind of how a lot of the Maya dynasties sort of start. A lot of the later Maya dynasties start. They start that way, right?
Wow.
And so as that first kind of empire kind of thing in at least in Mesoamerica, I think they make a lot of enemies. I think that they are overstretched. We don't know how Teotihuacan specifically falls, but the end is not good. Like they burn a good chunk of the city center. It kind of falls apart. And so all the usual suspects, when we talk about collapse, it's all usual suspects. It's usually like, oh, there's some pressure from outside. There's some internal revolt. There's environmental problems. Population pressure. All those things are happening to Teotihuacan towards the end, but we don't have a good handle on what happens to them.
Wow.
Yeah. So the most impressive for South America, for Mesoamerica, I would say would probably be that. For the Maya area, I love Tikal Temple 1. I've always loved Tikal Temple 1. It's the iconic Maya pyramid for the classic period. It's super tall, right? It's not nearly as big as this, but it's a wonderful pyramid. You're not allowed to go up it. People used to be able to go up this thing, and the tourists kept dying. There we go.
Oh yeah.
The tourists kept falling off the thing, right? The stairs are they're almost like walls. They're actually designed so that you're not supposed to go up this thing. Their stairs are like they're basically just for elites. If you ever go up a Maya building, you'll see a Maya building. That's Temple 2. Actually, that's Temple 1. There we go. You go up these things. The stairs are really, really steep, and they're designed to be really, really steep. And so the tourists kept falling off of this thing. and so they put up a rope ladder, and the tourists still kept falling off of this thing and dying. So then they installed, I think they installed a wooden thing on the back of it, and then that didn't work either. So you're not allowed to go up that one anymore. But it's an iconic building. It's like what Maya temples tend to look like, right? So it's between that and maybe Chichen Itza. I think people know Chichen Itza. The big pyramid there.
Yeah,
of course. That's a pretty common one. But I've always liked Tikal Temple 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's so beautiful. It's an interesting looking building.
Yeah, and the fun part about all these pyramids is that all of that is just rubble inside. There's nothing like there's burials. What do you mean? There's some burials, but you can't really go in any of that. It's just a giant pile of rocks with rock face on it, with stone face on it. The only part you can actually go inside is that little tiny piece on the top. That's it. There's just a little tiny room there. And what you do is you go up these stairs, right? And there'll be imagine a crowd. I want you to imagine like a big crowd there, and they're performance spaces. So you go up to the top of there, you go maybe behind a wall or something, and then when it's time to like come out, you're like, and then like people on the bottom, you do perform something sort of ritual or ceremony on the top, and you're good to go.
Oh wow,
that's what it is. That's what all these places are.
What year roughly was this being utilized?
This is it's post 695. So this is like late 7th, early 8th century, roughly.
Okay.
When this one's sort of being constructed.
Wow. So you'd imagine some type of like high priest type person coming out.
It's rulers, yeah. It's mostly rulers and royal family members that are doing this. And you look at those steps. Don't think of the steps as just steps. Think of those. Sometimes those are platforms too, and those are performance spaces too. So there's dancers and stuff on them. Like there's all kinds of stuff that's happening. The other thing that I would say about most of your Maya centers, and Mesoamerican centers more generally, is that they're not. The past is not in black and white or in gray and white or brown or something like that, right? It's in color. Everything's in color. So this would have been painted, and it's painted to clash. It's not like painted to like look nice with the jungle. It's painted to like, bright reds with like hematite sparkles in them. So there's like a glitter bomb when you walk past it. It's designed to like, or like bright white. So it's hard to look at. Just like,
you're not building a giant pyramid to blend in.
No, you want something to clash. And so, it would have been an impressive sight. You see these folks on the top of these like glitter buildings, like doing amazing things. Like it's an amazing thing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, tell me if I'm completely off on this. I've heard that some of these places, like these, larger civilizations, they cleared so many trees that they actually affected the rain patterns in the region.
It's true. Yes, it's true.
So can you tell me about that? I mean, that's a wild consequence that I don't know if they fully calculated.
So there's a National Geographic image of it's a site called El Mirador. And it's a reconstruction painting. Basically, it has a ruler sort of in the drawing, and it has like all this pavement. That would probably be a good thing to sort of go off here. But let's just say that it's the amount of pavement that they're doing in a lot of these places. They're chopping not everything, but a lot of the jungle. I tell my students sometimes that the jungle's trying to kill me. And it is. It really is. You watch these nature shows, and these nature show guys are like, oh, like jungle, source of life. Like, look at all this water I can get. Like, they chop stuff, whatever. Well, we can just go to El Mirador. You can look at El Mirador. It'll be there. So that place, we see all this forest now. It wouldn't have been there. It just wouldn't have been there. It would have been chopped off. The jungle is in many ways, it's hostile. It's there are. I'll give you an example.
Hey, we're gonna take a break really quick because I need to talk to the fellas. All right, if you're a woman, you can skip forward. I don't really care. But guys, I want to talk about one of the most probably demoralizing things that can ever happen to you. All right, you're in the bathroom, you're brushing your teeth, you look up in the mirror, and suddenly you realize my forehead looks bigger than it did before. Well, the thing with that is that men don't go bald overnight, right, Christos? Anyway, it's sneaky, okay? It's like, all right, well, the lighting in here is a little weird. And then you're like, I just took a shower, so of course, you know what I mean? Or maybe my barber just actually pushed it back. And then one day, someone tags you in a photo, and you're like, what is going on? And the worst part is that most guys don't know what actually works. I mean, there's a million oils and, all sorts of things like potions on the internet, basically, that are going to claim to help you out. But the reality is there are doctor-trusted ingredients that have been trusted for decades. I mean, truly, they've been studied for years. And that's why a lot of guys are using Hims. All right. Hims makes it incredibly simple to get personalized hair loss treatment online. You don't have to go to the doctor. You don't have to take off work. You don't have to drive across town. You don't have to sit in a waiting room thinking like, well, everyone knows why I'm here. You know what I mean? Through Hims, you get access to prescription hair loss treatments with ingredients that actually work, like finasteride, minoxidil, the actual stuff that's going to actually help your hair loss. These are clinically studied ingredients that can stop further hair loss and even regrow hair in as little to 3 to 6 months. So it's amazing. And the best part is that it's 100% online. You literally just go to the website, do like a little consultation, you explain your situation, and a licensed medical provider reviews it. And then if you qualify, they send you treatments directly to your door. No hidden fees, no surprise costs. It's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. You get real treatment designed around your goals. So, for simple online access to personalized and affordable care for hair loss, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/camp. That's hims, HIMS.com/camp, CAMP, for your free online visit. hims.com/camp. Featured products include compound drug products, which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information. Individual results may vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil and finasteride. Now let's get back to the show.
So one time I'm falling off this pyramid, right? And I get hurt a lot. Like, one of the funny parts about me working in a lot of these places is that I'm not athletic. I have no skill. Like, I have no skills. I have no skills, right? Just like drop me in like a hostile, no skills, right? So I get hurt a lot. And so I'm falling off this pyramid, and I'm trying to like stabilize myself. I'm like, I'm like falling, right? So I try and grab the first thing. The first thing I grab is this tree called an escoba tree. And it's called an escoba because it has these spines. They're about that long, all poking out of the tree. They have barbs on them, so they break off in your flesh. And the tree itself has fire ants living on it too.
No.
Right? Yeah, it's a completely hostile tree. It's the palms are really good for thatching. They might be good to eat, which is why the tree has maybe evolved all these defenses. But I grab onto this and I'm like, and of course I let go because I'm like
a human being.
Like, it's just all and so I grab it with my other hand and I grab onto something, and it's a vine, and it's called Bayal. It's got spines too.
No.
So like I got spines in both my hands, and I'm falling off this thing. And eventually I hit a tree with my body, and luckily it wasn't an escoba tree or anything's pointy or whatever. But they're like, no matter where you look, there's going to be there's this one kind of tree that whatever that chemical substance is in poison ivy, there's one tree where if you chop it with a machete, it'll actually spurt that stuff out at you. Like, it'll actually just fly out at you.
No way.
Yeah.
So you're cutting through the forest or through the jungle, and you're getting blasted with.
Yeah. Right.
Wow.
So you can kind of almost see why the folks at like some of these Maya centers were like chopping down everything. So what they do is they chop down a lot, they pave over. They take limestone and they burn it, and they make plaster, and they plaster over tons and tons of forest, right?
Like, literally basically just paving it, like
just
concrete.
paving it, like just like we don't want to have to deal with this, right? So they pave over it, and the forest that they do keep, they manage it. So they cut down everything that they don't want in the forest, kill everything they don't want, and they leave everything that's there. So the forest that is there, a lot of times will have like tropical fruits in it that they like, or there might be game that they like that's there, right? But they get rid of everything that they don't like. And so we think of the forest as being pristine. It's not. And yeah, that does alter weather patterns. I was working in the early 2000s. I was working in this place called Zapote Bobal. It's today, it's today known as Zapote Bobal. Way back in the day, it was called Hishwitz. It was a rough translation of that is Jaguar Hill. Right. And I was working in the town there, and the people in the town had gotten there, whatever it was, maybe 20, 30 years. It wasn't an old town, 20, 30 years ago. And they had chopped down a whole bunch of forests. And if you talk to the old timers, they would be like, yeah, I remember when it used to rain. Like I remember, like the rainy season was getting later and later and later and later. Like, this part of the world, one of the things that makes it difficult to work in is that there's a rainy season and a dry season. And it's not as if there isn't rain in the dry season. It's just you're either dealing with more rain or less rain, right? And you often have enough water to drink, but either too much water or not enough water for your crops. It's one of those two things almost always, right? You never have like perfect, right? Never. And if you chop down a whole bunch of forest, it alters that weather pattern. And so these guys, you talk to them, be like, yeah, I remember, when the rain used to start and it was like, May or something, and now it's like starting in like June or July.
Wow.
And so, and where I was, the forest was cut down, but it wasn't cut down that bad. I imagine, in some places.
But like ancient deforestation.
The ancient deforestation, I imagine some of them were just like, I've got no patience with this. And just chopping down whatever.
I think my buddy, and I hope I'm not getting it wrong, but Luke Caverns, I was telling you about him. Yeah. He's a brilliant, he's the best. He's an amazing storyteller, but also just a really interesting researcher and archaeologist that's going around finding stuff. He's the man. But he was telling me that, I forget which civilization specifically, but there was a site where they'd cleared out so many trees that they basically built this massive civilization, but because the weather patterns changed, they were getting less rain, they were growing less crops, they were basically just kind of slowly strangling themselves because there was such little precipitation that the whole society kind of collapsed.
So that's actually one of the things, we talk about the ancient Maya, right? One of the things that always comes up is the collapse, like what happened to them, right? And I don't know if you're going to get to this later, but we talk about sort of collapse type stuff, right? You kind of go from the heights of sort of population and art, culture, society, all that sort of stuff, really complex society, in some places to crickets. Not everywhere, but in some places it just goes to crickets. And it goes to crickets in maybe 100, 150 years, something like that, right? In some places the collapse is like very fast, right? And in some places that collapse happens, and there's like all kinds of war events where you see people coming to kill other folks. You see these long-term rivalries and such, people going back and forth against each other, right? In other places, it seems more environmental, and so I don't know whether your friend's talking about the Maya side of Copan, but that seems to be what's happening there. I used to work there.
Really?
Yeah, it was in Honduras. Yeah, Copan. I was there for a field school at one point, running a field school with some friends of mine, and and my advisor, and the Copan seems to have actually kind of degraded a bit. They sort of chopped down so much forest that basically you get to a point where the carrying capacity of the land just isn't there anymore, and you start seeing people just like being like, when you can't grow food, it's not like society collapses all at once, but people are like, I'm going to move.
Right.
Like people don't just really stay around when there are going to be those people, right? Those people that you see on like the news when like the weather is coming and they're like, I'm never leaving, right? There's going to be, those people are always around.
Yeah, there's Floridians in every society. Yes.
There are Floridians in every society. Yes, there are, right? So they're going to be those folks. But there's also going to be folks that are just going to be like, you know what? I think I'm going to move to a better place. And so they do.
That's so interesting. Yeah, it's funny because I think sometimes we have this view on history that is very like kind of sterile and kind of removed. We're like, oh, these people walked around the forest and ate some fruit and they died, and then maybe did some rituals in between. But we forget they're real human beings with the same minds as us that are making kind of the same calculations. And there's people that are just like, I'm going to go move. I'm going to get up and leave and go to a different town, or I'm going to walk with my family to a different village. And they're just kind of migrating. It's an interesting thing to consider.
No, it is. It is. It's actually why I wrote that book. It's on the table there, right? So I just came out with a new book, Blood on the Wind, right? The reason why I wrote that book, in part, is because it's about the Maya, but it's character driven. So I wanted to sort of highlight, okay, who are some personalities from that period that participated in this, and what were they actually like as people, right? Not like, because we think about these, we think, as you said, we don't tend to think of the people in the past as people. We see them as like, I don't know, we see processes. We see like big patterns and things. And even when you read about individuals, you don't really think about like, where did they go to the bathroom? Where was the bathroom break? Like, none of that, right? How are they feeling that day? Like, what did they like? Were they emotionally scarred? None of that stuff, right? You just sort of like, King X did this day, and that's pretty much what you've got.
Right. And
so in part, I wrote Blood on the Wind because I wanted people to basically be like, to look at this and be like, oh, like these are individuals. And the people in the past, they were like us, right? They were also not like us, but they were like us. They had worse technology, right? But many times they make the same kinds of decisions, and I wanted to humanize them.
Yeah,
that's kind of what it was. I was you get tired of basically sort of going with process and big picture things. It's one of the problems that I think we have in our field.
What are the interesting monotonous details of Maya life?
Monotonous details of Maya life. Well, I would say there's one of the more monotonous details is diet. So we tend to think of like cuisine, like people like being like, oh, like we have like all these variety type things, right? The concept of a staple crop and a staple food that people just eat every day is not something that people really identify with. I think there might be some places in the world where that we have this where it's like, oh, I conceive of rice and that's my staple food and I eat that every day, right? Or in Mesoamerica, corn, something like that every day. But in general, even in the places where that exists, you still think of like cuisine. And while rulers may have had a fairly varied diet, or at least had sort of feasting diets that were somewhat varied, right? Your average person is, they're eating some meat. They might be eating some hunted meat, and yes, they might have some varieties in terms of vegetables and such. But really, they're eating a lot of corn. And to me, that's and they're eating it in different forms. But again, if we look at sort of the hieroglyphs, and I'm a hieroglyph specialist, right? Look at the hieroglyphs. Most of what they talk about is drinking gruel, and just the idea, like you work on an archaeological project, and oftentimes one of the first things that people sacrifice is food. It's like one of the things, like to save money, they sacrifice food. And so you eat the same thing, over and over and over again. And I've been on projects, including the sort of project in the 90s. I was in my first big project that I was on as a grad student in the 90s, where you're eating gruel every day, either for breakfast, well, definitely for breakfast, but it might be for lunch too, right? And just the thought of that, it's some sort of corn gruel doesn't seem like the most appetizing
like
thing.
The Matrix. Like it was just sort of like this mashed up
it's a
corn
paste.
paste.
Yes, it's like that. It's like a mashed up paste. And it's like, what are you going to eat today? I guess I'll have some gruel today, And so to this day, like those experiences, when I've run projects now, I'm like very much like, no, we're going to have good food. I can't stand it. Right.
It puts you more in touch with the people you're studying.
It does. I suppose it does, but man, it is really uncomfortable. So like, like my wife will make oatmeal or something like that. I'm like, nope, not doing it. Right. So like, so that sort of, anytime I see anything like that in any culture, I'm like, oh, it's kanji, or, oh, it's gruel or something like that. I'm just like, please, no, like I can't do it.
So the average person every day was just waking up, eating this kind of gruel sort of paste thing for sustenance. And that was nonstop.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
That's interesting. Because in my mind, like I feel like I romanticize kind of this period and these people where I'm like, oh, they must have been eating this varied diet of nuts and berries, and they would go hunt and find a rabbit, and their gut health was probably amazing.
I mean, there's probably some of that, but there's a whole lot of gruel too.
Yeah, I guess once you're in a civilization this big, in the tens to potentially hundreds of thousands of people, like you just need something to keep it going.
Yeah, so the site sizes vary pretty widely. You get a site from a quote unquote city might range anywhere from about 6,000 people, but there are some places where it's like 130, 140,000 people living in these places, right? So it's a pretty wide variety. On the diet thing, so even funnier, we think about feasts, right? Where we sort of rulers having feasts and things. One of the funnier aspects that we have about feasts, and this is not my work, this is Steve Howson's and others' work, is that we think about feasts and these rulers throwing these big parties and things. But if you look at actually who's actually eating at these feasts, it seems to just be the ruler. So when you get invited to a feast in ancient Maya society, it's basically you have all this abundance around the ruler, and the ruler's sitting there and feasting and things. And it's pretty rare that anybody else is doing anything other than just sitting and watching. And it's really uncomfortable. Yeah, like that would be a really uncomfortable thing. Like imagine like a medieval feast where it's like just the king and they're just like, I'm going to eat in front of you.
Yeah.
Again, it's conspicuous consumption. It's like, look at all the stuff I got and you don't. Haha.
That's so funny. It's also the exact opposite of like Guatemalans today.
I know.
Like you go to your like Guatemalan friend's house, he's gonna give you unlimited food.
I know, it's unlimited food.
And they're not gonna start eating until you've eaten 2 meals already.
No, it's like it's all warmth, right? It's all warmth and stuff. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
But back in the day,
the ruler's like,
no.
You know what's up? I'm just gonna sit here with my food. And the thing is like it was probably rude to actually watch the person chew their food. And so it would have been even more uncomfortable. Like you get invited to a feast, the ruler's sitting there with all their food and they're eating, and you have all these people being like,
oh gosh, strange. You're like a food cook. All these formalities. You're watching some guy eat and you're like, all right, I can't watch. And then you look up and you look back down. What an uncomfortable experience.
It would have been uncomfortable. Yeah.
It's just so interesting. I'm curious about these, you call them hieroglyphs?
Yeah.
That term I'm obviously associated with ancient Egypt, but it would be the same term here.
Yeah. So it's the same term here. Hieroglyphs. So the Maya had hieroglyphs. So one of the things that distinguishes Mesoamerica from much of, well, I think all the rest of the Americas is that they have writing systems. So it's an urban area, and there are plenty of other urban areas in the Americas. But for Mesoamerica, there's writing systems. Everybody's got writing systems. So the Aztecs have a writing system. The Maya have a writing system. The Olmec have a writing system. Probably start writing, actually. Zapotecs, Mixtecs, they'll have writing systems. And the Maya writing system, though, is, I would say, the most complete and most complicated writing system that the Americas ever produced. And so we can read about, I don't know, 85% of the inscriptions, thing of that sort now, in part because we had things like a Rosetta Stone to help sort of decipher them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What kind of Rosetta Stone? Is this something developed like Jesuits or something?
Yeah, sort of. There was this real bastard named Diego de Landa, who he was recalled back to Spain for being cruel to the indigenous folks in Yucatan. And
if you're getting recalled in the 1500s, you're probably pretty cruel.
You're getting recalled during the Inquisition. like it's really bad. Like you got to be really bad to get recalled back to Spain for the Inquisition, right? So he gets recalled back to Spain, and as part of his legal defense, he sort of I wasn't really being bad to them. I was just studying them, and look at all this information that I gathered. And so one of the information things that he gathered was he got this Maya scribe to write down what he thought was the alphabet in hieroglyphs. Now, the Maya didn't have an alphabet. They didn't. And so he was asking the scribe, you can imagine him asking the scribe being like, I want you to write down like A, B, C, D, and the scribe being like, we don't, okay, I guess. And it kind of tries to do it, right? There's a section of the thing too that we don't know what he asked the scribe to do. And more recently, we've deciphered what it says on there, and what it says is, I don't want to. We don't know what he was asked to do, but he wrote down, I don't want to on there.
And what is the name of this stele or like this?
It's a text. It's the relation of the things of Yucatan. It's by what do you call it? Diego de Landa. So yeah, you just look up Diego de Landa, and
we still have the original scribes.
We do. We have it in the Spanish, the original Spanish versions. We have English translations of it. Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, so it's spelled out that way. Now, Diego de Landa, I said he was a real bastard because he was. He wins his legal case. He gets promoted because that's how these things work. People always fall up the ladder, right? So he gets promoted. He becomes Bishop of Yucatan.
What?
Yeah.
Within the Catholic Church?
Yeah.
No
way.
He
burns like almost all of the indigenous Maya books. He has this giant like big bonfire. He burns almost everything he can find, gets promoted to be Bishop of Yucatan, and goes on his merry way. But there we go. That's it.
Wow.
That alphabet formed the basis of the discovery of hieroglyphs, of how to actually, that was our Rosetta Stone. So even though the sounds were kind of off, they were close enough.
It gives you something.
It gave us something. And even weirder, so the Cold War, right? The Cold War plays in this too. So there's a Soviet code breaker who winds up sort of promoting this idea that there's a syllabic component to the inscriptions. So prior to that point, we thought that there was like what we call logographs. So like think of like one glyph and equals one word, right? He basically was saying, well, no, there's actually some that are one glyph per one sound, right? Anyway, the Soviet codebreaker comes up with this, and he breaks the Maya code, like the initial Maya. He breaks it. He basically comes up with a couple of words, and he links them to glyphs, and from those, and links them to pictures actually. So he's lucky. He looks at a picture. I forget what the animal is, but he looks at a picture. He looks at something next to it. He reasons that it's a caption, and decides, oh, I've got a caption here. Awesome, and he kind of goes through it, and because it's the Cold War, people in the West don't want to accept that this is real. And so the scholarship gets held back, and it gets held back for whatever it is, a couple of decades, gets held back. And then things thaw in the 70s, and all of a sudden this comes out, and people are like, oh,
wow.
And people build on this and build on it and build on it. And so one of the more ironic things is that there's a Russian American named Tatiana Proskryakov who was also a chain smoker. For some reason, in my mind, she was a chain smoker, right? She was at Carnegie, and then she was at Harvard. Chain smoker. She's the person who's responsible for deciphering that there wasn't just calendrical stuff. Yeah, that there wasn't just calendrical stuff in inscriptions, but there was actually history written there. So so we owe that to her. Like the idea of like, oh, that there's history written there, that's her.
Wow.
Right? And so you have all these waves of discovery. And so there was a wave of discovery in like the 80s. I was part of the wave in the 90s.
Right.
So like straight up 90s. Like I was straight out of the 90s. Like so I was part of that wave in the 90s, and have been doing it ever since. It was my first love. Like if you had to think, picture like what's my first love for the Maya stuff, it was glyphs. It always was.
Wow. So what can you tell me about this Rosetta Stone? Like when we're looking at this, like I know we're trying to put this alphabet together, but it's not really there. But what can we pull away and be like, okay, like I see Mickey Mouse down at the bottom. That's K, I think.
Okay, yeah, sure. So looking at these things, what they did was they found real world examples of these on monuments, on sculptures and things. And they basically said, okay, well, if that's like, see that ka? See the thing that looks like a comb there?
Okay.
So like off to the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The sixth one off. Yeah, the comb looking. There we go.
Okay.
Remember I said there was a word for cacao?
Oh, yes.
That's the ka. It's the exact same one. And so what they did was they started plugging in those glyphs in every example they could find and being like, is there another word we can make out of this? And they looked at every dictionary they could find. Anything from the colonial period, anything modern, anything of that sort. And basically, that's how they did it. They sort of pieced it together. And so between that, and it turns out that there are logographs, right? There are plenty of logographs. Combining those two things together, they were able to sort of piece together words, and we've been doing it ever since.
Wow.
Think of it as like extreme Sudoku. It's kind of what it is. It's like extreme Sudoku.
Like, okay, this one fits.
This one fits, but this one doesn't fit. How does this work? It can only be this and this and this.
Right. Oh, but actually, our first one wasn't even the right one because the second one's the right one, so I'm going to switch it. Oh,
so that's what it
wow.
is. It's extreme Sudoku. And so, in the 90s, I was a student. I was at Tulane University in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up on Long Island. But
nice.
But I went to Tulane because I was pre-med, and we see how that worked out. It had a really good pre-med program. It was like an early acceptance, right? So I went there, and I didn't know anything about Maya stuff or anything. I was like a lot of little kids. If you meet somebody that's my age and they tell you that they weren't like into Indiana Jones, and that's not why they became an archaeologist, they're lying.
They're
lying,
they
folks.
Gotta be.
Of course we were. We all were, right? And so, whatever. I'm like in second grade or something like that. They're good. Yeah, like that was my thing. I do this pre-med thing, and I get to Tulane, and it just so happened they had a really good Latin American studies program, Latin American archaeology and anthropology there. And it just so happened they had one of the experts on hieroglyphs there. And so I took a class, and I was like one of those nerdy kids that like would like, with a blackboard or something, like practice glyphs in the basement of a building somewhere.
Really?
That was me. That was me in my dorm. I was just doing that, like sort of learning this stuff. I sort of was at it for years. And towards the end, I did a project on anniversaries, and figured out that the Maya celebrated birthdays. Not that they celebrated like when the person was born, but like birthdays. Like, this is your second birthday, your third birthday. Like, I figured out that they celebrated birthdays.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was me. That was weird.
And how do you find this? How do you discover this?
I looked at patterns. So I looked for like patterns in when the dates were. So I was like, okay, well, when is this person born? Do we see anything after, 1 year, 2 year, 10 years, 20 years, things of that sort? And it turned out, yes.
Wow.
And they do death anniversaries too. So like, oh, when did this person die? Like, oh, the longest death anniversary I think we have is about 200 years. That's still celebrating this guy's, birthday afterwards, right? Which sounds weird, but really, we do that all the time.
Yeah,
right?
it's not
that weird. Like presidents' birthdays and things, we do that.
Or even just like on a casual basis, like you go to like your grandparents' grave.
Yeah.
Maybe on their birthday, maybe on their death day, but like you go and bring flowers or something.
Yeah. And so I think that, again, that humanizes them, right? You sort of see this.
Right.
And so I looked at that stuff and I fell in love and didn't look back.
That's so cool. What are some of the glyphs you could point me to that either you've worked with or that you just know of that might, for lack of a better word, just blow my mind?
Might have blow your mind. Okay. All right. So speaking of Tatiana Proskrikov, if you look at the glyph for birth, it's Si. It's SIY, right? So it's a glyph. It's a glyph for birth. It looks like a frog or like a toad, right? And one of the things that we're figuring out now is not just what the glyph means, but how the glyph came to look like that. So like, why did they choose the glyph for birth? Why did they make it a frog or a toad or what have you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So each of those things, there we go. Yeah, that's it. So a couple of years ago, so this is a glyph. It was actually deciphered by Tatiana Proskrikov. It was a glyph for birth. It was like one of the first glyphs that was ever deciphered, right? It's a logograph. So it's one glyph for one word, right? And we now know that it's an iguana. It's actually supposed to be an iguana. It's not a toad or a frog. It's actually a cryptid. It's actually a toad. I call it toadguanas. It's like looking at like a jackalope or something. A lot of these things are kind of combinations, right?
Oh, really? It's a fake animal combining two things.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was staring at it for a while, and I was wondering myself what all those dots are on the top. It had been bothering me for years, and I was like, what are those dots on the top? I was sitting in a laundromat in Germany. This is like 3 years ago. Sitting in a laundromat in Germany, and I was like waiting for my laundry to be done. And I'm looking through toad stuff. And, I don't know if you've ever read, to a kid or anything like that. Like you've ever read The Frog and Toad Are Friends? That series? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they're riding a bike together?
Yeah. And so I was reading the Frog and Toad Are Friends stuff to my daughter, at various points. And this is like, maybe it's 3 years ago, reading stuff to her. And it was at the tail end of that. Like they don't, she's too big for that now, right? And I'm sitting at the laundromat and I start thinking about it. And I'm like, I start Googling things. And I figure out that those things there are actually eggs. If you look at toads, frogs and toads, frogs lay eggs in like a nest of eggs, right? Toads lay them in strings. And the toads that lay them in strings in Mesoamerica are these big bufo toads. They're I think they might not be classified as bufo toads anymore, but they're those the ones that people like think get you high if you look them like those toads.
Yeah, like a big old fat boy.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. First of all, one, who tried that out? No. Oh yeah.
Oh, this one's kicking. This one's hitting.
One, two. It's actually mostly really poisonous. I don't know if it would actually don't try this, guys. I think it's just really poisonous.
Well, that's like Cambo or Gambo. I think it's Cambo. It's like it's a poisonous frog that puts you like close to death.
Yeah.
And it's in that near death state that like your brain sort of endogenously creates DMT. And then you hallucinate, and then you're like, "Whoa, I'm high," and it's like, "No, you're dying."
Yeah, I don't know. I like let's put it this way: you're not going to get me licking a toad. I'm not going to try that. So I don't know anybody who has, but yeah, that's just a weird one. Anyway, so I looked at these things, and I said, "Oh, they're toad eggs," and I started to sort of come around to that possibility. And what I found was that basically a lot of these toads and frogs and things. They form part of a category of really sort of fertile animals. Animals that the ancient Maya thought were like produced lots and lots of young and like they're all fertile. So they grouped like toads and iguanas, frogs, some snakes, crocodiles, things like this that produce lots of eggs as like super fertile animals. And for whatever reason, they latched onto iguanas and toads and such as the glyph for birth. So that's why it's a fertile animal.
Wow.
Right. And so I think what's happening right now is we're actually trying to find the hidden history for each of these glyphs. Like what was in their minds when they were like making this stuff up, right? And yeah, I'll admit some of them were probably really, really high when they were making some of these things. There's somebody really high making some of these things up, right? But why, right? And so a lot of these glyphs, I think there's a hidden backstory to them, and I think that's where we are right now with the field, is that we're trying to sort of figure out, okay, well, why did X glyph end up looking like that?
Wow.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? We're going to take a break real quick because I got to ask you a question. Are you the type of person that just wakes up in the morning and immediately like hits your vape or gets a coffee or throws in a pouch because you just want to feel anything at all? Like you just throughout the day, you're like, okay, coffee, pouch, vape, coffee, pouch. I mean, to be honest with you, that was me. Like I was just going from cold brew to pouch to cold brew to pouch all day, and my heart felt like it was going to explode. Like I was just like felt strung out like all day. Truly, I was like just kind of anxious, and I didn't even know why. And I was trying to like eat clean, and I was lifting weights. Meanwhile, I was also chemically nuking my nervous system, and that's why I started these ultra pouches. I'll be honest with you, I found these on my own, and then I reached out to the company. I was like, hey, I would love to work with you guys because I love what you guys do. Ultra is amazing because it's nicotine free and caffeine free, and it still gives you that focus and energy. It's really the best. Like I'm like, okay, there's no nicotine or caffeine. I was like, well, what is it? Well, basically they partnered with neuroscientists to put together a blend of like nootropics and adaptogens to actually help you focus and get energized and kind of, help with that oral fixation, no diddy, without like the jittery crash. So it's got like L-theanine, Infinity PX, alpha, GPC, vitamins B6 and B12. And I'll be honest, they taste great, they make you feel great. And I don't know if it's just me or what, but like I truly feel like I'm more locked in when I'm taking them and there's no crash. And the craziest thing is that, sometimes I'll still use nicotine. It just helps me cut back and I feel way better. Now, caffeine and nicotine are going to wreck your resting heart rate. It's going to make you feel anxious if you're taking them all the time. And on top of that, it's going to destroy your sleep. So that was my biggest issues. I felt cracked out. I felt anxious and I wasn't sleeping that good. But ever since I've been taking Ultra, I'm still getting that same little kick. I'm getting that thing to do throughout the day. And I just feel better in general. Ultra is absolutely amazing. And if you're interested in checking them out, I have great news. You're going to go to takeultra.com. That's TAKE, ultra.com. And you're going to use the promo code CAMP, and you're going to get 15% off when you use that code. That's takeultra.com, and use the code CAMP for 15% off. And when you check out, they're going to ask where you heard about Ultra. Just please tell them that we sent you over at Camp Cagnon. It really helps us out a lot. Thank you guys so much. Feel better, sleep better, get less anxious, but stay locked in. Now let's get back to the show. No glyphs for aliens?
No glyphs for aliens, no.
Not yet.
Not yet. No glyphs for aliens.
If there's a glyph you could understand that you don't know what it is there one that you're like, oh, I wish I could just read this?
There are... Yeah. So there are parts of some of the glyphs, some of the death glyphs. So there's lots of different death glyphs. As you said, I'm sort of a death specialist, right? So there's a glyph for there's many different ways that they talk about dying, and one of the reasons why there are so many different glyphs for death is because the ancient Maya, just to sort of blow your mind, didn't believe in one soul. They believed in lots of them, and they escape the body at different times when you die, almost certainly, right? So there's like one that's kind of residing in your head, and another one maybe in your liver, another one maybe in your heart, something like that. We know that the Aztecs had this, where the Aztecs, like they believe like when you die, there's a whole bunch of things, right? As a sidebar, there's this one Aztec soul. It's really sad. It lives in your liver, and it's like your bile, like your angry like soul, whatever. When you die, it actually has to go around and find every piece of you that you ever left behind in your life and pick it up.
Wow. So
like toenail clippings and hair and all sorts of stuff. It's kind of a sad soul. It kind of walks around. Yeah, it's almost a ghost, right? It's almost like this thing that's like, just like unfinished business kind of character.
Interesting.
Anyway, so there are these glyphs, so the glyphs for death, and there's a part of one of the glyphs for death that we can't read, and I wish we could. It drives me crazy. It's a glyph. It's a flower. It's almost certainly a flower that the Maya equated with death. It was the flowers that you get in Hawaii, like those like lei flowers. Yeah. It's a variant of that. It's one of the death flowers, but we don't know the word for it, and we can't quite get our handle on it.
And you don't know why they associated this flower with death.
I don't. I mean, some of them are rather easy. So like marigolds are rather easy. They drive away flies.
Oh, really?
And so so you don't want the body to actually, because it's hot, right? you don't want to put a rotten body and have the rotten body basically be
covered in flies.
Be covered in flies. So you have marigolds. So that's a fairly easy one.
I see.
Why you would want some of these other ones, I have no idea.
So are any of these the ones that you're talking about?
No. Some of them are flowers. Yeah. They're. I mean. Yeah. Look for It'd be hard to find. It's a little face. It's a little hard to find. Yeah, Kimi's a really nice one. That's actually the skull over there. That's a really easy one. That's just death. That's just like it's we know that one. That's an easy one. Right?
It's such a distinct visual essence.
It is.
It's fundamentally doing the same thing that the Egyptians are doing, or that like the Indus Valley River people are. It's like it all kind of is doing the same thing, but it looks so distinct.
Well, the thing about Maya writing is that it's not made for you. It's not made for me. The Maya writing system, the amount of people who were literate in ancient Maya society, you're talking maybe 1% can read and write really well.
Mm-hmm.
I could maybe go up to 10% that can read something or understand something, but not past that. It's designed by and for a really small ruling elite. It's designed to be secretive knowledge. When you think of writing today, we think of it as something that is almost democratizing. It's like, I'm going to print something out and it's going to be really, really efficient. And it's an efficient thing. It's like you print something out and you got the information, right? This is a writing system that is purpose-built to be inefficient. It's designed to be esoteric. It's designed to be somewhat mysterious. And again, that concept of like, I am designing a writing system to be inefficient. I think it throws a lot of people. It's like, what do you mean it's not designed to be read? Like it's not designed to work, right?
Interesting.
It's designed purpose-built to not work, not work well fast, right? And you see that with the Egyptians too. Ancient Egyptians, I believe you had somebody, a guest on here was an ancient Egyptian specialist, right, at one point. That writing system is not, when they're coming up with it, it's not designed for everybody to read. It's a really small group of people. And over time, they come up with hieratic and you're writing it a little bit faster and things. There may have been a process happening like that for the Maya too. They didn't quite get to that point. But it's designed to really be something that you're not supposed to look at. And so that's why the style is the way it is. It's designed to really be like, you kind of stare at it for a while.
Interesting. Chris, could you Google just like Maya, like face carving or like wall carving? And basically, the reason I want to look at this is because this is going to all tie together. But I don't do drugs often. Okay. But I did mushrooms maybe 2 years ago. And it was the only time. And I spoke and consulted with a psilocybin clinical psychologist before doing it because I wanted to do it in the most sort of like, any of these are perfect.
Actually, I have an idea. You want to see something trippy?
Please.
Okay. Look up Yaxchilan, lintel 25, maybe YAXCHILAN. Then lintel 25.
Nice.
Or 25 or 24, but 25. Let's try 25. Go with 24. Sorry. 24. Oh, actually, that'll work. Nope. Next one. Go 25. Okay. Let's see. That one there, the British Museum one. That one. Yeah, that one. So if you go to that one, and you sort of open that link or open the link in a new tab or open the image or whatever. Okay. So what we're gonna, I'll tell you what it is, but I was gonna say this is like one of the trippiest things I can think of.
In short, I do the whole thing that he basically told me to do.
Okay.
And basically it was like, get food and water, be in nature, like don't do so much, like do this amount. And again, this is a psychologist that works specifically with people to administer psilocybin for like therapeutic purposes. And he gave me a specific playlist. And the playlist came from like John Hopkins from their clinical trials with psilocybin. And a lot of the songs sort of have this like ambient Central American, what I would assume as a layperson, kind of vibe. There's a lot of like flutes and like light drums and things like that. And he was like, this is sort of good ambient sound to listen to. So I did. And I don't know why. I'm not a good mental visualizer. Like if I close my eyes, it's just black. Like I think I have like aphantasia or something. Like I can't see stuff that bright. But when I did mushrooms, I could see so clearly in my mind's eye, like colors and images. And for whatever reason, and maybe this is placebo and this is me projecting, this is what I saw. Not literally this, but like it was this type of carving and inscription. It was like, it wasn't Egyptian. It was like specifically like petroglyphs that felt like this style. And I was like, that is so strange. And I don't know if it's me sort of retroactively putting it on, but it's like psilocybin is quintessentially a Central American psychedelic. And the fact that this is what I saw, again, I have nothing to deduce here, but I was like, I wonder if they're doing the same thing and seeing images and kind of recreating the images from these psychedelic experiences.
Yeah. That would not shock me. No, that would not shock me. So in terms of what you see on these sorts of things, very oftentimes when we're looking at sort of this material, every once in a while anyway, you'll see things that look almost distortions, things that look big that shouldn't be big, and things that are small that really shouldn't be small and such. And you do have to wonder to yourself, like, what are they thinking? Like, are they tripping when they're doing this?
Mm-hmm.
This specific panel, it's part of a triptych. Two of the pieces are in the British Museum. The third piece, I believe, is in Mexico City. And it's from a site called Yaxchilan. It was like a door lintel, basically. It would have been above, so it would have been up there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at it, what you're seeing is on the right, there's a woman. She's got a bowl in her left hand.
I see.
The bowl has a bunch of items in it. In the bowl, there is a bloodletter. There is a whole bunch of blood, a whole bunch of bloody paper, and some of the things that are in there that are kind of like to let you know that there's like she's done a whole bunch of penance and a whole bunch of she's done a whole bunch of bloodletting. Now we know from another panel, and this is gonna blow your mind a little bit. We know from another panel that the kinds of things that they were doing to do this bloodletting. In this case, we know that she was almost certainly drawing a thorny rope or string with either maguey spines or potentially pieces of obsidian through her tongue, like boom, like
Wow.
punctured it through, like bloody. There's another triptych that actually has her just like her mouth is just like, and the triptych, the three pieces are not actually from the same event, but they were arranged in such a way as to tell you kind of a story of like, this is what normally happens, right? So she's got all this blood and she's basically let it into this bowl. Now we know that what you're seeing here is actually a conjuring event. They're actually summoning a patron god of the city. So that's what you're watching. You're watching her conjure. Like that's what she's doing, right? She's actually like a magical ritual, right? We know from other contexts that the folks that are involved in this, it's usually a procreative act. And so there's usually a male-female pair that does this. And in the male pairing, what they do what the men oftentimes do is what's the most painful place you could imagine cutting with a knife?
I'm gonna go probably penis.
Yep.
Yeah. Or maybe balls. Honestly, balls might be worse.
Maybe. I don't know. Right. I'm not going to try that. You're not going to get me doing that, right?
Yeah. I'll lick a toad before I do that.
And so we know from the men's case, for example, they'll take these spines, these big stingray spines, from these stingrays, the ones that have like barbs on them.
Yeah.
And they'll show you at least a guy with one of these stingray spines and a handle. And I've actually found these, archaeologically I found these. And he's actually puncturing the foreskin of his penis with it, like boom, and then they'll show like the blood, like the person's bleeding, whatever, and it's like and the blood will go in there, right? Now they show this. Don't ask me how they figured this out, but I reviewed a paper one time where they actually were sort of playing around with, is this possible? Could people have done this? And the answer was,
could people have done what specifically?
Taken a stingray spine, punctured a foreskin of a penis, and actually like that would that be like a regular practice? Because these are like rulers that are doing this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is that those stingray spines will break off in the wound. It's a barbed thing. You can't just like little pieces will break off in it. Sometimes the spines have venom in them for a lot longer than you'd think they would. And so realistically speaking, in a tropical environment, if you do that and you don't have access to modern medicine, you're probably getting infected. Like you're probably, and you're the ruler too. So it's like, seems like a bad idea.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I found, the first time I found one of these bloodletter things, in the bundle with the actual bloodletter were a whole bunch of what looked like really clean surgical pieces of obsidian, like little pieces of obsidian that were nice and clean, that you could use to make a clean incision, and you wouldn't have to worry about like anything like this. Like the obsidian is actually sharper than surgical steel. It's brittle, which is why you probably don't use it much in surgery, although I've heard of it. But it would make a nice clean incision. And so what we think is happening both on the male end and possibly on this image. So if you scroll down to the woman, what's possibly happening to this person is, remember I said you go up to the top of a pyramid and you perform these rituals and you like come out and you're like, what may be happening is they may be cutting themselves, getting the blood in private, basically getting all this blood out, and then coming out like into the window and being like, look what I got, like, and of course, if you actually think that that's what they did, they'd have the same reaction you did, which is like your jaw drops, like, what are they doing, right? So realistically speaking, she may not actually be drawing a rope through her tongue. She may be telling people that's what she's doing. It may not actually be, they may not be telling the truth. You have to keep in mind these are political monuments. These are political statements, right? So anyway, so she's got all this stuff going on, right? She's got a skull on her right arm that she's balancing. Almost like she's got her fingers and she's actually wiggling her fingers and she's got the skull on her forearm. It's probably a deceased ancestor.
That's the thing over her bracelet, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's like a skull there, right? There's a little skull there. And if you look at it, there's a little centipede looking thing that's coming out of the top.
Yes.
In her headdress is also a centipede coming out of her top, out of the top of her headdress, right?
Where's the headdress?
So there's her head, side? Right? On to the right, there's her head. And if you go to the right there, yeah, there's like a little headdress there, right?
I see.
Yeah. So what she's done is she's got the skull, she's conjuring things. The patron god of the city is almost certainly an ancestor. She is then what you're supposed to do anyway. You're supposed to burn you burn the bowl, you burn the stuff in the bowl. If you go below the snake head on the bottom, so you keep going down, there's another bowl. Maya inscriptions oftentimes will show you things that are happening at this like sequentially, but they'll just put it all in one because they don't have the room for it. Mm-hmm. So she's lit that. There's actually smoke that's coming out of it, and then there's snakes. There's a double-headed snake that's coming out. So one head of the snake is there, and it's opened its mouth, and there's like a mask coming out of it. You can see like a skull-looking mask thing, right? It's not a skull, but there's a mask coming out of it. If you go back all the way up, and you follow where that snake's going, you see it winds off to the left. Keep going up, keep going up, keep going up. It's actually a giant centipede, but okay. So then it's opening its mouth, and then this god is popping out of it. It's the patron god of the city. It's a guy named Ochak, which I find funny. It almost sounds Irish. Ochak, right? Ochak, right? He's coming out of the thing, and she's talking to him, right? She's probably engaged. Like one, even if she's only cut her tongue with a surgical knife, she's probably in a lot of pain. Mm-hmm. The guy is whoever she was with, her husband, was probably in a lot of pain at this point. I've never been in pain, and had pain levels to where I would be tripping like that. But even if they weren't tripping on that, they probably were tripping on mushrooms and other things too. They probably were when this is happening, right? To make it even cooler, the glyphs here, they're in reverse. This is designed to be looked at with a mirror or a bowl of water. You're supposed to actually be in supernatural space. So whatever you saw in that thing, right? The Maya had this idea that there were mirrors, and the mirrors were portals to other worlds. And that there were things that were going on the other side of the mirror, like Alice in Wonderland style, and you could access that stuff. And so that's what this is. It's actually showing you what's on the other side of the mirror. It's really awesome.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, when you say the other side of the mirror, you mean that they would look at this through a mirror?
So
like they would put a mirror down and it would be on the ceiling. That's how they would look at it?
Yeah, it would be right side up. But the way that this particular thing was done, they put you in the building and everything was reversed. So you're actually you're supposed to be on the other side of the mirror when you get into the building, and you're actually looking out at the regular world when you look in the mirror.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
wow.
As I said, these guys are probably high they're probably really high.
The mirror thing is so interesting because that shows up a lot.
Yeah.
Like a lot of different cultures. Like, I mean, John Dee, who is, even like the Queen's, sort of mystical advisor and like don't know, 17, 1800, something like that.
Yeah.
Like he had this obsidian mirror that he would like conjure beings, and like that's how he was doing his stuff. Or like these sort of like incantation bowls of water that you would kind of like look into.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that they kind of independently also came up with this mirror thing. There's something about mirrors and reflections that sort of invoke the supernatural.
Yeah, there's a lot of magic that's going on in the Maya area in the late classic period. So in about 600 to about 900 or so, there's a lot of magical things that we know about that are happening. And
interesting. Yeah. And so these high pain, really intense acts and behaviors, you would propose that this is maybe some type of vehicle to accessing this supernatural being through intense pain.
It's pain plus drugs, essentially. It's what's doing it. There's almost a sense that if it's a sacrifice, it needs to hurt, right? It needs to actually not just be like, oh, what'd you do? Oh, I gave up chocolate for Lent or something like that. No, it's like, no, it actually has to like really hurt.
Right.
And so I think there's that access there. Now, I should say that it's a bit restrictive. So the way that it worked, at least at this point for these guys, is that the rulers and the royal family was largely descended from these patron gods. So they essentially had god blood. Mm-hmm. So when they're shedding blood for these sorts of things, it's because it's already kind of magical god blood that they're using.
It's the blood of the gods.
Yeah, you need god blood to actually make this stuff work. So your average person can't just be like doing this. Like they can't just go to their house and like, it's not going to work.
Right, because they don't have the divine right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. And now is your theory is that it's ritualistic, or that it is because they're actually cutting themselves, they're releasing a ton of cortisol and adrenaline that they're, hallucinating along with these drugs, or is it kind of both?
I think it's kind of both. I don't know whether, who knows what you see in these kinds of scenarios, right? But I think they conceptualized those centipedes. There's different kinds of them. There's centipedes, there's snakes, there's things that look like dragons. The general idea is that you want to conjure this god called Kawil. It's a glottal, Kawil. You can practice it in the shower or something, Kawil, right? You conjure this god called Kawil. And Kawil is kind of almost like a Hermes kind of character, right? It's like a messenger, like you kind of like a middleman kind of character. Mm-hmm. And then Hermes sort of, this Kawil character sort of has a snake that's I can't make this stuff up, has a snake that's actually his leg. Mm-hmm. And what you're actually seeing here is actually there it is. You're actually seeing the snake's head open. So it's actually all going through Kawil. And there's almost a sense that I think they probably view it as a serpent or a snake because it's something that's long, that's connecting one world to another world that's alive. So they're classifying things like serpents and centipedes and all these sorts of things. So if you want to talk to the dead, for example, like you need something like a centipede that is like almost like bridges that gap between like the world of the living and the world of the dead. And if you've ever seen one of those big giant centipedes, they're creepy, right?
Yeah.
They have that they have that quality to them, right? Or the millipedes,
mm-hmm.
The sort of they have that kind of quality to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're very alien looking.
They are alien looking.
Yeah.
They look a lot like aliens.
That's so interesting. Yeah, these sort of like occult rituals that they sort of partake in. What is the sort of political breakup of like the shamans or like the priests that are doing this and sort of the monarchs or the leaders that are running? And are they in battle with each other?
There's no difference. So we tend to like think of this sort of thing as like, oh, there's folks and they're doing witchcraft or sorcery or what have you, and that's like somehow like not sanctioned, not part of the normal society and such, or they're somehow set apart, right? Or like there's a priest class.
Well, that's our society.
Yeah, that's our society, right? This is a separate class. For these guys, no. For these guys, the rulers are the primary. They're like the heads of the religious. It's a theocracy on some level. So they're actually the ones that are the prime movers and shakers in a lot of this. Are there priests? Yes. Are there folks that are engaged in this kind of activities? Yes. But the leaders of them are the rulers and their wives, and that's they're doing all of this themselves.
Wow. So the leaders themselves are actually invoking this.
Oh yes. One of the characters in that book, she has a really sort of strange career trajectory. She goes from being a little girl who is basically being pursued from city to city because her relatives are trying to kill her. And she goes from that to sort of wife. Then she and her husband become usurpers. They usurp a kingdom. They take over a kingdom. Then she becomes a mother. Then she becomes a sorcerer. Then she becomes a warlord. And she's probably the chief evidence that we have for the Maya practicing total war, where they go in and not just going in and like taking out, enemy combatants and things, but like burning villages, burning agricultural fields. She's probably she's one of the most brutal.
Wow.
She ends up becoming one of the most brutal rulers that the Maya ever had. But the way that they sort of show her doing this is women are probably not on the battlefield fighting. Instead, she's actually conquering them with magic. So she has other people fighting for her, but whenever they portray her, she's like as this like badass sorcerer or sorceress, I guess. So she'll be standing there like the women that you saw before, with like a big bowl of bloodletting implements, but she'll be standing on like a defeated ruler, like standing on them, like the ruler's like on the ground, like battered and broken up, and then she's like just standing on them.
What is that?
Like,
How do we find that?
That would be from the site of Naranjo. That's Naranjo. And look up Lady Six Sky. I think it's Stela 20. What's it, 23? I'm not sure if it's Stela 23, but it's There are images of her just standing on people.
And does that sort of connote something to the audience, to the people, like, oh, this is who our leader is? Or is that her way of kind of saying like, I'm fighting too, but just not with, arrows?
Oh, there she is on the right, the drawing. No. The black and white line drawing.
Oh,
all the way down. Yep, that's it. That's her. She's standing right on top of that guy.
And that guy is someone that they would know as the bad guy.
That was a rebel. So she put down a rebellion. It was like, you'd almost hear like, you rebel scum. Like she's like, she like, stomps him. It actually provides his name on him. He actually has his name written on him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so his name is on there, so we know exactly who it is.
You know who it is, yeah.
And how do we know she's a sorcerer based off this image?
She's holding all the bloodletting implements in her arms.
Could you zoom in on that?
She's actually holding the bowl with all the stuff in it. It actually says there's actually glyphs in it that basically talk about her basically it being basically on fire, essentially.
Wow.
There's fire happening in that bowl. It's and sort of another cool thing about her is that she's actually one of the only, I think maybe one of two women in ancient Maya history, in all of ancient Maya history, who called themselves a king, not a queen, a king. So she was pretty badass.
And that's so interesting that she's kind of like bending the gender role.
Yep.
And is that basically to like invoke like, hey, the kings have more status and I want the most status? Like I'm running this whole thing?
Basically, yeah. I mean, she ruled for almost, I think, 50 years. Like she was, she basically had a kid. Women weren't really allowed to accede to office very often as their own ruler at a site, right? So in her case, she was widowed, and her son became king. Once her son becomes king, she starts making war in his name, right? But he's like 5 years old.
Yeah.
So it's like
she's the king.
Yeah, she's the king, right? But she doesn't want to be called like a widow or the queen or anything like that. So she starts calling herself the king, but of the place that she used to come from. Which is a strange way to do it. So she's like, oh, you're not going to let me be king here, but I'm just going to call myself king from, like, I'm still a king and I'm from that area.
Oh, wow.
So she kind of bends the rules a little bit. And she starts calling herself, she has these titles. Like one of these titles is called Kalomte, which means basically the literal translation is tree splitter, and that's a long explanation, but the connotation is basically I pay tribute to nobody. Like, I don't bow for anybody. Yeah.
Wow. She's like Heisenberg. That's awesome.
She's like, that's it. I like no one, like there's nothing else. Like I don't listen to anybody. It's mine,
Wow.
And so she's one of these characters that like sort of becomes a sorceress and then becomes this warlord and is just ruling over this place for forever.
Wow.
And it's a pretty cool trajectory. It's a really rare trajectory for a woman. It's almost like, I don't know, almost Disney-esque or something. Like if you're listening, like this is totally like one of those like origin story things. It would work,
She's a sorceress and then becomes a warlord.
Yeah.
I mean, wow. And now I'm looking like at like her outfit.
Yep.
So if we scroll down just a little bit, Christos, there's like there seems to be like these things over her, like her womb. Is that significant?
Yes. In terms of so that's a shark.
Over
It's a shark head.
the genital part?
Yeah, it's a shark head.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know what that says really, but it's a shark head, right?
No way.
Yeah.
That is fascinating.
And so I think if we look at if we look at these characters, you've got kind of this like shark jaguar-like things, like predatory things over her womb. Yeah.
Is that basically invoking like my seed, like my child is a shark or is a jaguar, is of the gods?
Yeah. I mean, most men will wear things like that over their genitalia. So she's sort of taking on that male role. She's got a jade skirt as well. It's a skirt and it has little jade beads that are sewn into it. So she's a woman and she's very unabashedly a woman, but she's scary. She's very
pulling
scary.
all these male characteristics.
She's pulling all these male characteristics and just scary. Wow. She has all this sort of stuff on her. Her top, actually, it's unclear. She does, from the drawing at least, it's not clear what she's wearing on top.
Seems like she's topless. Like,
it almost seems like that. The Maya were very. I don't think she is. The Maya were very, very conservative in terms of dress for women. So it's unclear exactly what's going on there. It could be erosion. The drawing is a drawing.
Right.
If she is topless, she's certainly covered, and they would never. At least, topless women in the Maya area are usually associated with like either small erotic pots, like they create what is effectively porn within the Maya civilization, but for ceramic pots. They're like little things that are designed to be owned by like private individuals, right?
Really?
Yeah, they do.
But there's like a shame around it as well.
Nudity and shame do go together in ancient Maya civilization, sure. So you might get sort of examples of sort of in that case, or you might get figurines where they're talking about like female captives that are going to be bare-breasted, but generally not on a monument. You wouldn't get that, especially not a ruler. So I'm wary of it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What's up, people? We're going to take a break really quick because I got to give a shout out to the good folks at Dylan Optics. I mean, for the longest time, I've been wanting a sunglass partner, and I'm so glad that it's a great sunglass brand. All right. If you've ever seen me on stage ever, or just on this podcast with my hair down, I always have sunglasses. I use them to keep my hair back. But now with Dylan Optics, I can also use them on my eyes, because I swear when I put these things on, life was in HD. All right. They've got this patented matte lens technology that kills internal reflections. My least favorite thing is when you're putting on glasses and you can like see glare on the side. And these are amazing. There's no glare, no weird like seeing your own face thing when the sun hits it just right. It is a clean, crisp vision. The founder is the most American dude ever. He was literally in the Air Force, and then after he started experimenting with lenses because he didn't like the sunglasses that he had, and literally was baking the lenses in his mom's oven. I mean, that's America. And now they design and manufacture by hand, and they've got these matte lenses and stabilized resolution lenses that adjust to light and make everything a little sharper. So if you want sunglasses that actually make you see better, that look great, and also rock with us over here at the campsite, you're going to go to DylanOptics.com. That's DILLON optics.com. And if you use the promo code CAMP, C-A-M-P, you're going to save 10% off. So go check it out. Thank you, Dylan Optics, for making this possible. And let's get back to the show. What can you tell me about ayahuasca? We're talking a lot about, of course, sorcery and magic and these kind of occult things, but ayahuasca seems like almost literally a bridge to the cosmos.
Yeah. I don't really know much about it. Never done it. Not from my part of the world where I work in, right? So it's not something I know a lot much about.
Was it utilized by the Maya?
Not as such. I think, as I said, they had other drugs.
Yeah, you mentioned tobacco, you mentioned mushrooms.
Mushrooms, yeah, lots of different types of mushrooms. When we see the Maya doing shrooms, it's usually bunches of shrooms. So they're not just holding like one shroom, they usually got like a fistful of them, and they're just like, they're just downing them.
Does it seem ritualized?
No, it actually seems like they're having a party. Like it seems like, I think there is a religious component to it. Like drawing a hard line between religion and politics doesn't work for the Maya. So I think being able to do that, I think is very very difficult to sort of to make that leap. But in the context that we see them having mushrooms, it's usually a mushroom party, and there are occasionally things that look like, even in the image, that look like they're tripping. So like they'll be chewing on it. There's a famous pot. I forget what the name is. But we call it there are rabbits pot, basically.
There are rabbits.
Yeah. So it's an image of the one of the Maya creator deities, and the Maya creator deity is sitting there with a bunch of mushrooms. And the thing you have to understand about Maya religiosity is that the gods, for ancient Maya gods, they're fallible. They are not omniscient. They make all kinds of mistakes. They do all kinds of human-like things, and everything blends into everything else. So there's the creator god, and the creator god is sitting there, and he's chewing on all these mushrooms, right? And he has these visitors bringing him gifts, and one of the visitors is really, really upset because he gets there, and he's that's a different rat pot, but yeah, the bunnies in general are actually like tricksters for the Maya. Like any bunny pot you see, it's always going to be humor. Like it's supposed to be funny, right? And there's this guy, and he's got this. He's chewing on these things, and the guest is really upset. And the guest actually just says, like, they have captions like a cartoon. The guest actually just says, like, there's too many rabbits, and you see all these rabbits like popping into existence on the pot, like boom, 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 and it's probably because the ruler is actually like. The creator deity is actually high. Like he's like sitting there like tripping and like
what?
Yeah.
And do you think like is the implication that the creator deity is like, oh, I've created too many rabbits?
Yeah.
Or like
well, the implication is I think that the guest is supposed to be bringing gifts like, oh, look at these. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. See, there's the rabbits on the bottom. So he's sitting there. That's the stack of mushrooms he's eating. It's not just one, it's a whole bunch of them. And he's got one of those mirrors too. So he's actually staring into a mirror while he's actually getting high, probably looking at human beings on the other side of that mirror, right? Like actual human beings on the other side of the mirror. And all these rabbits are just popping into existence. And that one guest is just like, I brought you this. And yeah, like what are you doing?
Wow.
Yeah.
And where's the little thought bubble? Is it in this one or is it on the other side?
It's on another side of the pot, unfortunately.
That is so funny.
But most pots have these little like thought bubbles, essentially, that they'll say stuff. And it's really in those little captions that you really kind of get a sense of like the feel of like, oh, like here's a human aspect of things. Because it's not like, oh, I did this on a certain date or things of that sort. It's sort of humor, right? And it's people talking and saying things, you know. And I think that's really an important thing to sort of highlight. You know, I think one of the problems that we have as a field, I think, and just academics more generally, is that we don't talk to the general public enough. We don't address the general public. We don't really talk about all these things. We sit in our sort of little things. We publish books and such, but the books aren't really intended for a larger audience, right? It's actually another reason why I wrote the book. I was like, I just want people to like, instead of like talking about Caesar all the time or Ramses, like I just like somebody to like know who like this woman, Lady Six Guy. I'd like somebody to know who Lady Six Guy is. Like, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
And so I think it humanizes them, and we don't talk enough to people.
Right.
And I think it's always bothered me that we don't engage with the general public, because the problem is that when you don't engage with the general public and you're an academic, the public will engage with you regardless. And they'll find other people to sort of engage with the material. So, you know, the ancient aliens guy, or like that stuff that you get on your feed late at night, and things that pop up on your feed, like, oh, like it's written, you know, popular writers writing these little blog posts and things.
Yeah,
you know?
The awesome stuff.
And it is awesome. It is awesome, and we should be getting out there and being like, no, like look at all this awesome stuff. You should see this.
Yeah.
And instead we don't. And I think that's a big problem for us. I think it's something that, you know, you find situations where you have the public engaging, or other people engaging with the material that are not academics, right? And they might engage with it in ways that you don't like. But if you don't say anything and you don't do anything, like what do you expect, right?
Yeah, of course.
So that's just something that I think it's always bothered me.
I wonder if there's moments for you as an academic where you're seeing things and it's, you know, someone talking about like aliens building pyramids or something like that. Where you're like, okay, this is obviously not true, but the reality of some of these things are actually more interesting than what this person is letting on. And I mean, we've talked about a bunch of them so far, but I'm curious, is there something that's underlying where you're like, if you guys knew how crazy this was, this piece of technology, this inscription, this building, this ritual, you guys would be like, oh, this is way more interesting than aliens.
I mean, I think there are lots of things, and we've talked about sort of all the drugs and things. I think that's sort of a really strange thing, right? About the Maya that you don't really notice. I think all the supernatural stuff, God's being able to stare at you from behind mirrors, is really really kind of an amazing thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that people keeping track of their ancestors for 200 years, 150 years. I think that's something that also, to me, is interesting. We have this sense of ancestors in the U.S., but I think a lot of our genealogies are pretty shallow, and the idea that people are keeping track of these guys over long-term, long periods of time, I think is really interesting, and keeping grudges for really long periods of time.
Oh, really?
So you'll get these wars that'll happen, including the one in the book. You get these wars, and they'll happen for really long periods of time, and people will keep these grudges. So, for example, the Maya were an honor-based society. If you think about like feudal Japan or medieval Iceland, actually, probably the best example is medieval Iceland. But you think about these two things. You think honor-based society, like especially Japan. You think, oh, this is an honor-based society. Like, oh, you did this. I'm now dishonored. I must. The Maya had the same thing. People don't know this, but they did, and so they'll keep track of these things. And the fights that will go on between individuals, between families, might go on for 50 years, 100 years, in some cases, I said about 200 years, where people are sort of doing this. And the fights take place not just in regular space, but in terms of the sorcery stuff, will take place in supernatural space. So you'll find people, including the Lady Six guy, right? She'll conjure up things that are basically personified diseases, what the Spaniards might have called demons, right? She'll conjure up these things and then stick them on their enemies. And you'll get into these scenarios where these rulers will summon one and then summon another one, almost like Pokemon, and they'll go after each other. And you'll actually have images of these things fighting on ceramics of I don't know, flaming skeletal flying creature versus I don't know, owl with a head attached to it, fighting each other, right? And I think, if people saw that and knew about that, that you have these kinds of supernatural battles taking place. To me, that's a lot more interesting than the alien stuff. Why? Because the alien stuff can be dismissed pretty easily. People talk about pyramids, for example, and they say, "Oh, how did they build them?" A pyramid is basically just a giant pile of rocks. That's all it is. You want to make something tall, and you don't have, technology-wise, you don't have the modern technology. Build a pile of rocks, put some stone face on it, and call it a day, right? I'm not saying that the Egyptian pyramids didn't take ingenuity; they did, right? They screwed up a lot, right? So I don't remember I don't remember this being in the podcast or not. I don't remember this part of this, right, for the Egyptian one, but there are pyramids where they build it and they're going up and they're like, "Oh no, we screwed up. We can't keep going up. So we'll just kind of round off the top and call it a day," right?
Yeah.
And you see that fallibility in the building of a lot of these structures. And so you can dismiss all that alien stuff pretty easily. Whereas the actual truth part, I think it's
there's something to reckon with at the very least, to say well, this is definitely real.
Yeah.
Why did they do it this way? What did they believe was happening? What were they interfacing with that gave them these images? Was it drugs? Was it some other type of, ritual thing? Was it a story? Yeah, I think it raises a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I'm curious about child sacrifice.
Oh.
This is something that comes up specifically with the Aztecs. And I've heard kind of a few different sides of this where it's okay, well, it almost certainly happened in some capacity. And then I've heard other people suggest that, a lot of these stories of child sacrifice are aggrandized from Spanish colonists that go there and, kind of embellish these stories for their own political agenda. So I'm curious, what can you say about ritualized child sacrifice?
Okay. I can go there. I have these conversations all the time, weirdly enough. First of all, I guess when you hear about these sort of things, are these friends of yours that are fighting and stuff over this, or people?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are finished fighting and stuff? Okay. So this might make them feel better. Actually, they're both right. Both sides are right. In some cases, it is aggrandized by the Spanish. It is sort of made it much larger. I mean, the number of people that they're talking about, not even just child sacrifice, but just general sacrifice for the Aztecs, seem almost impossible to do. Like you read this sort of the history of the conquest, when they're talking about the Aztecs sort of sacrificing people. I mean, you would have to just be sitting there, like, don't their arms get tired? Like, and you're just like sitting there, like, how many individual folks can you kill and then throw off a pyramid in a given day? Like, it's just like,
Like, what are the numbers that they're throwing out from these records?
like thousands. Like, just at a certain point, it's like you can't. You just simply can't.
You're doing one a minute for 24 hours.
Who can do that? Like, you can't, right? I mean, and what do you have, like a line of people? Like just a whole bunch of like people and they're all standing there like dispatching? I find that very hard to believe. On the flip side, in terms of sacrifice, including child sacrifice, yeah, there are examples of it, and there are examples that are really bad. There's one underneath the Templo Mayor in Mexico City, Tenochtitlan, the Aztec capital, same place. Yeah, there were children. I believe they were drowned. They were sort of offerings to Tlaloc, and they were drowned. The way the Aztecs believed in things, the afterlife was where how you died, that's where you went. That was the afterlife you went to. So if you drowned, you went to the watery afterlife, right? You went to the sort of, it was ruled by a character named Tlaloc, right? It was like kind of a rain, agricultural kind of deity, right? And the afterlife that you would go to in that case, they have murals of it. It doesn't look that bad. Like it looks like people are cavorting around playing games and stuff, right? In terms of child sacrifice, so it does exist. And human sacrifice more generally for the Aztecs, if you like to use a Spinal Tap reference, like the Aztecs always take everything to 11, like everything. It doesn't matter, whatever it is, it's always extreme. It's actually one of the reasons why the Aztecs collapsed and why the Spanish were so successful. It's that people hated the Aztecs. Like even the Aztecs hated the Aztecs. Like most of the Aztecs in the Aztec Empire hated the Aztecs.
Like they were pretty brutal.
They hated them. Yeah, they hated them. It's a sort of state-sponsored militaristic religion, expansionist. Lots of death, right? Lots of mass death. And so you go and you sort of, you create this religion around this. One of the best ways to die if you're the Aztecs is in battle, right? You get to go and hang out with the sun god, who's the tutelary deity for them, right? If you're a man, that's how you die, and that's how you get to the sun god. If you're a woman and you die in childbirth, you go to the same paradise. And the reason why is because you've died producing either a potential warrior, or you've died producing a potential producer of warriors. So you go to the same afterlife, right? And it's like that for all of the various deaths. So, we talk about sort of child sacrifice. It's really the manner of the death that determines where they go, not so much the fact that they're infants, although there might be a point where the infant's not really considered a full human being yet, so you might go someplace else, right? If you think about the Aztecs, though, if you had to imagine what the worst possible death is for a militaristic, in-your-face society, what do you think it would be?
The worst death.
The worst possible death for a society where basically you're encouraging people to go off and die in battle. Like, what's the worst one?
I mean, probably like deserting or like leaving or something like that. I would like if everyone's going into battle, you run the other way.
I don't know about that
being
one.
Like a prisoner of war, maybe like being captured.
POW is actually not that bad because you're still dying for the state. Granted, you're dying for somebody else's state, but you're dying for the state. Essentially.
Did you have a guess, Christos?
Taking your own life.
Actually, that's not as bad. It does happen. There is a specific place where you go for that.
I guess it'd been like seppuku and like Japanese culture.
Yeah, it's not that bad. No, the worst one is actually dying in bed, like surrounded by it's like dying a quiet death. That's the worst one because it means nobody picked you. You're like the last kid at dodgeball. It's like you have this idea of like all these various gods sort of determining your death. Like, oh, you drowned. Oh, you died by fire. Things of that sort. Death in bed is like. Nobody picked you. Like you were just kind of like you were doing nothing.
You were a dork.
Yeah, you just died, right?
You weren't in battle. You weren't swimming. Yeah, you didn't even get captured. You didn't even kill yourself.
No, like you just flat out just died, right? You just gave up, right? And so we don't know how much of that's actually like state rhetoric or whether it's actually real. Like I'm pretty sure that like people weren't just like killing themselves at the very end, being like, I need to go someplace else, right? So it may not necessarily be that that's real, but that's sort of the Aztec kind of state rhetoric. And so when we look at sort of sacrifice or even child sacrifice and such, you have to sort of draw a line, kind of realize that you're dealing with, a state rhetoric versus like what actually is happening on the ground. Again, remember, people hated these guys. Even the Aztecs hated these guys. And so some of this stuff might not be practiced on outside of sort of like official context, right? So you have that. If you're talking Maya, some other places, they did practice human sacrifice. They did. Not on the level that the Aztecs did. Not even close, right? You do have the people that get killed human sacrifice wise are usually going to be, for the Maya at least, they're going to be elites. They'll be petty elites generally, unless it's a king. And if it's a king, you might get ransomed. You might not get ransomed. But usually it's going to be petty elites. The people that don't get killed generally are going to be like Farmer Ted. Why? There's no glory in killing Farmer Ted in front of a crowd. It's like, what do you got? I got this farmer. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
what? Doesn't make any sense, right? I'm not saying there aren't people that are everyday people that are dying. They certainly are. They're probably sadly considered collateral damage, right? So your everyday, your person's going to die that way. For child sacrifice, since you asked me specifically about child sacrifice, it does exist. So there's a cave called Midnight Terror Cave, really evocative name. I think it's in Belize, where it kind of looks like there were some kids that were trafficked there from far away. They did sort of isotopes on the bones and determined that they actually weren't local children that were being killed. And they were basically thrown in this cave. So it does happen.
Do we know why?
It seems to be part of this whole offering thing. One of the things that we know about sort of ancient Maya death and Mesoamerican death more generally is that the main food that gods eat is usually people. It's usually people or people substitutes. One of the reasons my latest book was called Blood on the Wind was because the thing that sort of attracted gods to sort of eat people, and in many ways as a substitute for human blood, was actually copal. It was a kind of incense. And you'd burn this so that the gods would kind of be attracted to it and they would eat it. And it was kind of a substitute for actually killing people, right? It's like, okay, well, here's some blood and we're going to burn this, and it's like blood and it's going to be on the wind, and then, things are going to eat this. Why sacrifice the child? I can't get inside the minds. I don't know why you would, why they did that in Midnight Terror Cave. But what I would say is that these are probably offerings to specific gods, and they're situational offerings for specific gods.
How do we know they were sacrificed, not just kids that died that they threw into this cave?
So that's a really good question.
Oof.
So figuring out, I know.
Pretty creepy looking cave.
Figuring out sacrifice is really difficult. There's a woman named Vera Tiesler, a wonderful archaeologist based out of Yucatan in Mexico, University of Yucatan, who has spent a good chunk of her career actually figuring this out. Like, she looks at knife marks on bodies and things, and like, okay, what is associated with what kind of sacrifice? Decapitation, what have you, right? And what she's found is that like the knives from this period, we're getting into really sort of the weeds here, aren't really sharp enough or strong enough to actually go through, like punch through a rib cage. So you typically have to go under the rib cage if you're going to take out a heart. You can't just punch through, right? You have to go under the rib cage. And so she spent a lot of time like figuring out, okay, well, what happens when you do that with a knife? Will it, what kinds of marks will it leave, right? And so that's one thing that we could sort of view in terms of the kind of sort of knowledge of how this sort of stuff is done. In reality, though, the difference between sacrifice and murder is really difficult to determine, right? So there's a difference between like, I've killed this person, right? And you've got sort of forensics, and you'd be like, oh, this person's killed, and like sacrifice, like I've, I did it in a ritual, right? So that's hard to tell. I can't in my mind figure out how they got the stuff in Midnight Terror Cave, but what I would say is that child sacrifice in the Maya area was dying out over the course of the Classic period. So if you look at like the central area where like Tikal was, sort of central Peten, they give that up sort of early Classic wise, I think. And it's really in the western part of the Peten, actually at Piedras Negras where I used to work, where that sort of persists. It's almost like the guys in the central Peten like did this, and they were like, at a certain point, they were like, no, this is bad. We shouldn't do this. And they stop. They actually stop doing it. And the ones in the West, they must have like looked at the folks in the West and been like, oh, those guys are crazy. Like, don't go West, guys. Like, how about like, to stay away from those guys. Those guys creep me out, right?
Wow.
So
I mean, gods eat humans.
they do, yeah.
In this culture.
Yeah, they do.
So if you wanted to be like a god, would you not want
Well,
to take a bite of a human?
Um,
Were there any of these people that were like eating like the hearts or like eating the livers of humans to like gain power?
we don't know. Sort of a funny story. I was talking about my wife earlier, the first fight I ever got into with her, the first fight, and before we were married, before we were even a couple, the absolute first fight was actually over this issue. I don't exactly know how this fight started. But like I came home from class one day and it was like that, like we were talking about it and it was like, no, you can't. She won the fight. I lost. It was fine. How do you prove this? I actually got into a fight with Vera Tiesler and another woman actually. I think it must have been in Madrid. We were at a conference and we got into a fight over this too. It's very hard to prove. It's really hard to prove.
Well, what was your wife's position here?
You can't prove it.
And your position is
but sometimes there are images of it, and you can sort of see that there are these people carrying around these bowls of human body parts and things, right? But as I've sort of gotten into this more and more and more, what you find are bowls that are offerings, but the offerings tend to be to gods. They tend to be to supernatural beings. Now there is this idea in ancient Maya culture, and actually most Mesoamerican cultures, that it's not that you just put on a mask or wear an image of a god and you you impersonate the god. It's that you actually become that god for that period. So you put on the mask or whatever, and then you just are. So like you want to be the sun god, like you put on all this sort of stuff, and you're not impersonating it. You actually are the maize god for all intents and purposes. That's you. But proving it, it's really hard.
What would be one of these images you would look at and be like, well, this seems like there's some cannibalism going on?
Well, so there's all these images of these beings called Y beings, WAHY beings, right? And these Y beings are personified diseases and all kinds of other ailments. They're basically dark magics. And they're things that, these kings would use to sick on each other.
Mm.
And sometimes they're carrying these bowls. They'll carry like here's a bunch of eyes, here's a plate of eyes and things like that sort, right? The reason I lost the fight is that I couldn't produce one that was like, I couldn't produce one. There aren't any. And so I don't know what you would need to actually prove that they're actually eating people. It's the same thing for the Aztecs and such. People talk about it, and I think there's a little bit better evidence for the Aztecs than there is for the Maya on this. But again, most of it is Spanish chroniclers. Most of it is people that are post-conquest talking about this stuff. There isn't like a passage that says like, I ate this person, right? We used to think there was, crazily enough. So Maya names, ancient Maya royal names, they are really evocative. And at a certain point, we figured out that these Maya names that they were names that they actually took when they became king, not names that they were born with, right? And so, for example, during this war I was talking about, there's this one guy named Balachan Kawil, which means Kawil, the god Kawil, is hammering in the sky. So he's producing thunder. There's this god and he's producing thunder in the sky, right? His enemy, when he becomes king, is Hasauchan Kawil. The god Kawil is clearing the sky. Storm's over, right? These are like people with like rivalries, like basically like taking names to like digs at each other, right? Anyway, one of the names that we used to think was evidence of cannibalism was a name that meant, we used to think it was like, this person is eaten. It was a mistranslation. And when we retranslated and figured it out, the name roughly translates as sun god is eating hearts in the sky. Now, one, that's a metal name.
Yeah, I mean, fire.
Like,
big fan.
Like, sun god's eating hearts in the sky, right? Two, no mother is going to name, like, they don't, like, who are you? Oh, your sun god's eating hearts in the sky. That's not really a name that people give their kids, right? And so most of the names that we thought were, like, cannibalism type names have evaporated. They've become basically just names of people that were basically rulers that wanted to provide metal names for themselves. So that's kind of what it is.
I see.
I'm so badass. I'm eating hearts in the sky, or like I've got tentacles. Like stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not. Unfortunately, there's no proof.
What's up, guys? We're going to take a break because I want to talk to you about something that happens in your late 20s, early 30s that no one tells you. That basically your ability to handle a night out drinking with the boys completely changes. Bro, when I was 22, I could go out on like a Thursday, sleep 3 hours, wake up, go to work, then go to the gym, feel completely normal, and then do it again the same day. Like I felt invincible. And now I have like 2 glasses of wine, and the next morning I wake up and I'm like, what did I do? And the craziest part is I can actually like see it now. Like I literally will wear like a Whoop and I can see my sleep score that night and be like, oh, I had 2 beers, so now I'm have like a 5% recovery. My body's trying to recover from alcohol in a bunch of different ways, not just dehydration. I mean, it affects, brain chemistry, and your liver has to process everything you drank. And that is why I started using Cheers Restore. Now, Cheers Restore is unbelievable. I'm not even the biggest drinker, and this absolutely has saved me on multiple occasions. All right, this is an after-alcohol aid that's designed specifically to support your liver and your brain after drinking. So the key ingredient is something called DHM, which researchers started studying for how it interacts with alcohol in the body. Cheers was actually invented by a student at Princeton, and now it's everywhere. I mean, it's been on Shark Tank, 50 million doses, 30,000 stores. It also has thousands of 5-star reviews on Amazon and has been backed by doctors and PhDs and clinicians and all this stuff. And the idea is very simple. You're a normal adult, you're having a couple drinks, all right? Cheers helps support your body so that you feel way better the next morning. And all you do is you take 3 capsules after your last drink or before bed. And obviously this isn't for like the insane, college nights, all right? If you have like 12 tequila shots, I don't know what to tell you. But if you're a responsible adult having a couple drinks at a wedding, it's going to make a huge difference. And honestly, for me, the biggest thing is that, I just wake up feeling like a functional person that's still able to get stuff done. I'm able to recover better, and I'm still able to have fun with the boys at night. So same night out, but a way better morning. And that is what Cheers. So for a limited time, our listeners are getting 20% off their entire order when they go to cheershealth.com and they use the code CAMP. So you just go to Cheers Health, use the code CAMP, and you're going to get 20% off. And after your purchase, they're going to ask where you heard about Cheers. Please tell them it was from the good people over at Camp Gagdon. It really helps us. It keeps the fire burning. It keeps the lights on. Thank you guys so much. Cheers has been amazing. I can't handle the uneasiness of the next day, and Cheers makes it all possible. Now, let's get back to the show. Now, Chris just wanted me to bring up your spear throwing demonstration.
Oh, yeah.
What is this?
So funny story. So I've been doing it for 21 years. The spear thrower in Mesoamerica was called the Atlatl, which is sometimes called Atlatl, right? The original word is Atlatl. And it means, the word Atl in Nahuatl, which is the language of the Aztecs, means water. So it's water. And what it was used for at the time of the conquest was 2 things. One was for spear fishing, so basically like a harpoon or something, And the other was for battle, for a weapon of war. They were using it in battle. And if you ever have thrown one of these things, or sort of, if you have a dog?
My parents do back home, not in the city.
Tennis ball thrower.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Those things are awesome.
They are, right?
Yeah, you can launch it.
Yeah. Tennis ball thrower, sad descendant of the spear thrower. That's what it is. It's the exact same principle. You just don't do this. Do not try this at home. They put a spear on the other end of it, and basically it does the exact same thing. So it produces sort of this, gives you like an extra limb with a bigger arm, just to sort of throw, right? And so I've been doing this for 21 years. It was, for a long time, the symbol of Central Mexican dominance. When the Teotihuacanos came in and went into the Maya area, they brought these things with them. If you had to point out one weapon from Mexico that would symbolize Mexico in the pre-Columbian times, it would be the spear thrower. That is oh, folks from Central Mexico are here.
Can we get a picture of the Atlatl?
Yeah, that's what it is. It's oh, they're here, right? And what it does, yep, there it is. You kind of throw it, right? You sort of use it to throw it. So why do I do it with my class? There's a few reasons why I do it with my class. This is from Intro Archeology. So I just did this last Friday. That's why I actually couldn't, I was prepping for it. I just did this last Friday, right? What you do with it is, there's 2 reasons to do it. One, it's just damn cool. Sometimes you just got to learn stuff just because it's fun, just because it's awesome. There's no other reason. Just joy of learning. I'm sorry, but sometimes you just need to have fun, right? So there's that. 2, and I don't tell them this, but it's a team building exercise. So you give everybody like at the beginning of the semester a collective exercise that they have fun at, and it's a baseline that you can then draw on for the rest of the class. There's a very strategic reason for why I do it, right? When I do it. Third reason is to sort of teach people about how sort of ancient technologies works, how those technologies work. And it's a really simple sort of technology, but when you see it in action, you see someone throw one of these things, it is like the Matrix. You mentioned the Matrix before. We were working in the 90s, like we're in the 90s environment. It's like the Matrix. It's like it looks impossible, right? And it starts about 40,000 years ago. We do it in a unit in the class. We're talking about sort of the birth of human creativity and that sort of stuff. And this is one of those things that sort of really gives human beings a significant edge in hunting, right? Because you can hunt a mammoth or something and not have to worry about it stomping you and dying, right? So you walk up to a mammoth like what's going to happen? Like it's going to die, right? Now, granted, you can't just throw one of these things at a mammoth and like critical hit it in the eye, like and just dies,
you
right?
got to track them for a while.
So you could throw a whole bunch of these things at a mammoth or some other creature and hope for the best and it dies, right? Or you could actually just hunt it and track it. And so this is something that plays to human beings' early strengths, which is just walking. We're good at, you ever like have a dog, like you may not be able to run the dog into bursts of speed, but you can probably outwalk the dog. Like at a certain point, the dog is just gonna be like, I can't take this anymore, please stop.
I mean, human beings are faster than every animal at distance, right?
Yeah, we're great. Like we just walk, right? Just walk and die. So it plays to those strengths. And so I do it sort of for that early unit to kind of illustrate that, that this is how human beings sort of one of the early survival tools for human beings. But I also do it to sort of link it towards the end of the class when I start talking about Mesoamerican civilizations, because the Aztecs, the Teotihuacanos had it, then the Maya got it, the Aztecs had it, like it was a main weapon, right? And so funny thing on Friday, they almost hit me.
No.
They almost hit me, yeah. So what happens is I go out, there's I do it usually in my Aztec class. I do it in my intro archaeology class. I actually even do it occasionally in my Maya class. Occasionally, I did it this past fall with the president of Middlebury College. Like he saw one in my office and was like, "What's that?" And I told him what it was. He's like, "Can I try?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. It's fine." He's like, "Okay, we'll try this." And so right somewhere there's an Instagram post of the Middlebury president with me and him like throwing spears and stuff. Right? He decided he wanted to post it all, and I learned, looking at it, it's one of those things that it's really fun. I take the points off so that nobody like gets hurt, like that. I don't need lawsuits and things. Right? It flies about the speed of a frisbee, roughly, and on a level open field or something like that, it's pretty easy to dodge. Like it's not, you see it coming, and so you can just step out of the way. It's not so hard, right? And so he wasn't in any danger, but at one point he wanted to go out onto the field and go pick up some of the spears and things, and he didn't mind if the students throw it, right? And I'm like, no, don't do it. And he backed off for a while. Eventually the guy, he's like, okay, I'll go out there. And so like he goes out there, and I turn around to my students and I'm like, don't you hit him. Don't you fucking hit him. like you hit him, we're gonna have a problem. Like, don't you do it, right? And so, and of course they didn't, Anyway, on Friday, so fast forward, I did it again on Friday. And I'm in Vermont, and there's about 1.5 feet of snow on the ground still in Vermont. And I learned that it's much harder to dodge one of these things in 1.5 feet of snow than it is with a field and such. And so I'm sitting there and I see this thing and it's coming at me, and I go to dodge, but I'm 1.5 feet down, and I'm stuck. And so I had two choices. It's either get hit in the head or the chest with a spear. Granted, it probably wouldn't kill me, but it would hurt. And I wouldn't be here today, or just fall over. And so I just fell over. And so it wasn't dignified, but I'm like, all right, I guess I give up. And I just fell over, and it was fine. It was about 1 foot away.
Whoa.
It's about 1 foot away.
That would have been a poetic way for you to go out, though.
It wouldn't have been bad. I'd rather go out that way than maybe I'm
laying in your bed.
I'm with the Aztecs on this.
Yeah, you can't be laying in your bed like an Aztec loser.
No, I don't want to be.
You got to get hit with an Atlatl in the head.
Atlatl dart in the head, yeah, something like that. But it's a really fun exercise. I want
to launch one of these things.
It's really badass. There are training Atlatls. So like up on the left there, you can actually see the Three Rivers Archery. I buy it from a guy named it's a Thunderbird Atlatl. It's in upstate New York. But it's basically, the same kinds of things. I used to, before I had a kid, I would like build these things, and it was like a kit, but like.
Can we get a video of one of these creatures? I would love to see.
Like with a kit, like you can't, like you just, I don't have the time. I don't have the time to I can't be fletching my arrows, and I can't do that, right? He's like, what time is that? You think about sort of having a kid is like, I think, do you have
Yeah.
So like, how old?
17 months. Yeah, still a little baby. I still got time. I have
No,
many
you got
more.
time, but do you
many
remember
years.
any of it? Like,
Yeah.
my general feeling on this is like with a kid, it's like people say, oh, the time passes really fast, and it does, right?
Yeah.
But the days are forever.
Yeah,
Days are forever.
The days are long, years are short.
Forever, right? Yeah, there you go. The days are forever. And so I don't have time to do that stuff anymore. I used to have time, but I don't do it anymore. There are these training Atlatls with like little things on that. This guy's using, what is he using? Oh, he's using a regular one. He's not using a training Atlatl, so that's good. The regular ones, they're just a lot more visceral. They're angry. I usually do a barbaric yelp when I'm throwing one of these things, because it's much more visceral. And again, close range like that it's flying pretty fast. I generally do it at long range with these guys, so they don't actually like hit me. And what's fun about them is that you can get really good fairly fast. It doesn't take that long to get good.
You can also rapid fire them, it seems like. If you got 10 spears on you.
Yeah. Well, the Aztecs didn't, the Aztecs had the bow and arrow, and the bow and arrow, almost everywhere else in the world, when you get a bow and arrow, like the Atlatl dies. Like people are like, what is this? Like I can use bow and arrow. But the Aztecs don't use it for that. So the way they do it is they'll throw it. They might carry a stack of them. They have a club or something too, right? So they'll throw a stack of them, and they'll throw it at a crowd. And if you throw a dart at a crowd, and I always joke like this with my students, if you throw a dart at a crowd, I don't throw it at them hard, but I kind of throw it at the ground, right? They'll divide up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again, right? So it's like you're picking off a herd. It's like you're hunting, and that's what they're doing. The Aztecs are hunting people. You'll throw it, and you'll throw it at a group. You isolate one person. The purpose of Aztec warfare, Mesoamerican warfare, all this sort of stuff is not to kill in battle. It's to actually capture in battle and then either take back home and ransom or kill there. That's the whole point. It's not mass casualties. It's not mass death. Sure, deaths will happen, but that's not the point.
You're on ransom.
So yeah. So the Atlatl, the reason why the Aztecs are using it, and a lot of folks in Mesoamerica are still using it even after the bow and arrow, is that they want to be able to capture people and bring them back. And you can't do that with a bow and arrow. It's too lethal.
Wow.
So you want something that will actually
yeah, you can dodge it.
You want somebody who will dodge it. And you actually want them to, because you want them to run off somewhere and then you can get them. You can hunt them. You can run them down.
Wow.
So that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, the Aztecs are pretty brutal like that. I mean, they're such an interesting group.
They are really interesting.
My buddy Luke was telling me the story that the Aztecs, like kind of like their genesis is like they're sort of like this like wandering sort of warrior tribe. They kind of like move into, what is it, Tenochtitlan? And they like set up, and then there's this whole like betrayal with the princess.
Yeah, that's true. That's all true.
That is one of the most remarkable stories.
Well, at least it's how the Aztecs tell it. So one of the things that happens,
good enough for me.
Well, one of the things that happens with the Aztecs is when they get into the basin of Mexico, they essentially destroy a lot of the indigenous history that's there, and then rewrite history just according to their needs. So they do the standard conqueror thing, where it's like history's written by the victors. They kind of massage things a little bit. So it's unclear how much of this is true. I think a lot of it is, but the general storyline is, you go, they're wandering. They come from someplace in northwestern Mexico. The language family that's there, it's called the Uto-Aztecan language family. And the reason why it's called Uto-Aztecan is because the language is more or less, the family extends up into what's today Utah, from Utah all the way down into northwestern Mexico, right? People have been trying to find out where the origin of the Aztecs was for forever. They've not found it in Utah or any place like that, right? There are, way back in the bad old days of archaeology, people were sort of had these fanciful ideas of where the Aztecs were from. So, for example, the Aztec origin point is called Aztlan, right? There's an Aztlan archaeological site. I think is it in Wisconsin? The Aztecs are not from Wisconsin. I don't know. They're not from there, right? They're probably from northwestern Mexico. They are probably a hunting and gathering tribe, one of many. They were called the Mexica. There are lots of Nahua-speaking folks that would later become Aztecs that are wandering into the basin of Mexico. And one group is called the Mexica, and they wander into the basin of Mexico. They're actually the story goes, they're one of the last to arrive. They get to the lake in where Mexico City is today. Much of the lake has been drained since, but they get to this. It was a lake at that point. And they find this part of the lake. They're given basically this little territory of land after some time to sort of work. It's a garbage territory. It's in the middle of it's like a swampy area. and they build it up, and then from there they kind of form this empire.
This is where they see the eagle with the snake, right?
Eagle with the snake. Yeah, they're wandering around for a while, and they sort of see this. It's why the Mexican flag actually has the eagle and the snake on it. It's because that's the Aztec myth or the Mexican myth.
And is it true that they get this land because they kind of broker a deal with the people there to like be kind of protectors and like work it and help out?
Supposedly they start off as mercs. So they start off as mercenaries working for other people that are much more established than they are. And many of the people that are already established speak the same language. They're other wanderers from wherever they came from. And at a certain point, they betray the people that they were supposedly working for. They form what's called the Triple Alliance. They ally with other cities in the basin of Mexico. They form the Triple Alliance. The Aztec Empire was never called the Aztec Empire. It was called the Triple Alliance. And
they called it that in their native language at that time?
Yeah, it was called the Triple Alliance. And the Triple Alliance then goes about and just starts basically conquering place after place after place after place. And they just are stomping. And they've kind of stalled at the time of the conquest, I would say. They're facing some revolts, some internal sort of unrest at that point. Had the Spanish not arrived, maybe they would have been able to continue. But as I said, people really hated these guys.
Yeah, you feel less bad. I mean, just like in brief, and you can correct some of the gaps here if I miss any of it, but basically, the Aztecs are basically setting up like a marriage ceremony and a strategic alliance with the people nearby. And what is the people group that they're doing this with? Do you know the name?
Well, Culiacan is the place. You're talking about the marriage where they take the flesh off the woman and everything. And you're talking about that one?
Yeah, it's the most insane story ever.
yeah. So they have there's a festival. They kill her, take her flesh off, and they wear it. And that's a bad.
And they're basically like, hey, we're gonna do this marriage, so bring the bride over, and like we'll marry her to like our prince, and then all the families come over to witness the ceremony, and then instead of a ceremony, they see the prince wearing the flesh of the bride.
Yeah.
And then he's like, actually, sneak attack, and then they kill all of them, and then they take over the city and they just rule the whole area.
Well, there is a red wedding kind of thing that's happening there. I mean, the mythology around it is sort of differs from place to place, but yeah, I mean, the general sort of idea is, they sort of do all this sort of stuff. And I guess, you don't feel as sorry for the Aztecs, the Mexica at least, once you sort of hear about how the rest of the folks didn't like them. But that said, we think about sort of the Spanish conquistadors and such, taking over a basin of Mexico and sort of taking out the Aztecs. The Spanish didn't take out the Aztecs. The Aztecs took out the Aztecs. If you look at even among the Triple Alliance, one of the main members of the Triple Alliance, Texcoco, actually defects to the Spanish. If you look at how the Aztecs, how the Aztec Empire sort of the collapse happens, you have the Spanish arrive and they get there, and there's like a couple hundred of them. A couple hundred of them aren't going to do anything. You look at what they actually have, their equipment. If you look at Spanish conquistador tactics and tools that they have at the time, it's really bad. They're not really. You might imagine them like wearing these like shiny armor and like helmets and things. In 90, 100-degree weather, that doesn't work. They very quickly, the ones who are wealthy enough to even have them probably shed most of them because you're in a can basically in the heat. So most of them are wearing padded armor just like the Aztecs are. Their guns are terrible. They don't even have that many of them, but their guns are terrible. They have some war dogs. They have some horses.
But they're outnumbered. I mean,
they're outnumbered by like thousands and thousands and thousands of people, right?
Like this ancient Aztec city is maybe 100,000?
Yeah, it's more than 100,000.
And
yeah,
it's how many Spanish conquistadors?
200.
So like, what are we talking about?
So maybe they up their numbers at a certain point, a little bit more, but not much.
And
right?
of course, disease, we can get to that.
Well, yeah, we can get to that. But the initial things, right? So when you hear about sort of the Spanish marching on Tenochtitlan, they do march on the capital, but they march with themselves and like tens of thousands of indigenous warriors with them. So it's not like the Aztecs, the Spanish are far outnumbered, and they have way more indigenous allies than you would normally think, right? And disease. They get there in 1519, and they still get spanked. So the Aztecs basically, trapped them in the palace and forced them to flee, and they let them go. And had the Aztecs actually had the imperial forces at least pursued the Spanish and actually killed them, that would have been the end. But they didn't. They figured, these guys are beaten. They're run out of the city. They chase them for a while, and they're like, they're probably going to die. It's because they think, we've beaten them. And unfortunately, disease by that point had hit the capital, and between 1519 and 1521, you get like 50% of the population of the city gets decimated. And if you kill 50% of the population of a city indiscriminately, some of them are going to be warriors, yes, but some of them are going to be people that like were taking care of like water and like food and sewage and all sorts of other things. And so it compounds all these problems that they have. And even then, the Aztecs in the capital city, even in 1521, when the Spanish finally do come over and take them out, they hold out for months in that city. So there's some tough bastards like in that city, like really tough. But the conquest is basically it's basically pitting indigenous peoples against other indigenous peoples. That's what it is, and it's like that just about everywhere with the Spanish land. It's not like they have an overwhelming force or anything like that. The Spanish basically just take them out piecemeal.
Right, and is it a deliberate attempt to basically massacre all these people, or is it like, hey, these people are like kind of hostile, we sort of want these resources, and these people are willing to help us do it, we have a strategic alignment, so let's go ahead?
They don't even know what they're doing. The conquistadors don't even know what they're doing at this point. There are points where, like Cortez, for example, for the Aztecs, he has a bounty on his head from the governor in Cuba. He's not supposed to be doing what he's doing. Like he's just gone rogue.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's not even, no. They're supposed to be doing like a trading mission. They're not supposed to be doing like all this conquest stuff. And it goes in many parts of the Americas, it goes from basically being like trade mission and such to just personal greedy Spanish conquistadores who want something, and they decide to convince a bunch of small group of people to basically do what they want. It's like basically expedition treasure hunting stuff. So it doesn't start off that way, and there's no reason that the indigenous folks who were there, Aztecs or Maya and such, had any reason to believe that the Spanish were actually there to stay or really do anything. It's only in hindsight that we see this, but no, and it's really piecemeal. So like the Maya, for example, the last Maya stronghold, one of the last Maya strongholds, is a place called Tayasal. If you go to Tikal today, if you want to go see Tikal, you have to fly into you have to go to a place called Flores, which is an island city in the middle of Petén. There's a lake there, right? Tayasal is right outside that lake. It's the largest lake in Guatemala. It's Lake Petén Itzá, right? That kingdom doesn't fall until 1697. In 1697, there were undergraduates at Harvard getting degrees. So if you think about how much time it actually takes, it's quite a long period of time.
Wow.
So the conquest is not something that's piecemeal. It's not something it happens all at once, Death Star style. It happens very, very, very slowly. And one could argue that the conquest is still happening today. That there are groups of Maya, for example, the Lacandones, who were never formally conquered or territorially annexed or any of that sort. They just kind of withdrew further and further and further into the forest. And what the Spanish conquistadors didn't accomplish with arms, like tourism is accomplishing today. Wow. People are sort of like, gradually like, okay, indigenous languages are disappearing because people are like, it's not advantageous for me economically to learn this. If I have to learn two languages, it's going to be Spanish and English. And you see these indigenous languages just going. So you could argue that the conquest is still happening. We just don't notice it, but it is. Yeah.
I heard that the disease spread so quickly that by the time like Pizarro was going into Central America, the disease had preceded him. Yeah. So Pizarro goes, he starts off in Panama, and he goes from Panama south, and he goes to sort of South American coast. And that guy could have had a really cush life. He could have. Like, he didn't need to do what he was doing. He was a fairly high official. He was wealthy enough. He was fine even in Panama. He decides to go on these little expeditions and things. By the time he actually makes it to the Inca, I think it's the second time. Yeah, disease had already made its way. It had already killed the Inca emperor in South America. There was a civil war that had happened because there was the succession war, and the guy who had won the succession war was actually marching on his way back to Cusco when Pizarro basically does the equivalent of jump out of the bushes and take him captive. Wow. So, and even then, Pizarro was no great mastermind. He was really, really lucky and just really, really ballsy. He just Atahualpa, I think at that point had, was it 100,000 troops with him? And the Spanish had 100, 200 guys. I was really, again, another tiny group of people.
Atahualpa, they think he's a god or he's sort of semi-divine. He thinks he's invulnerable. He's like, what are these guys going to do? Pizarro invites him to a party, like to like talk to him. And Atahualpa says yes. He still takes 10,000 guards with him, but doesn't arm them. And instead of sort of meeting him, Pizarro sets up an ambush, sets up snipers basically, and causes enough chaos when the guy arrives to take the emperor hostage. And because the emperor is kind of a god or godlike, people listen to him, and that's kind of how the Inca Empire falls. It's not like sort of a big military conquest where there's a huge battle or anything like that.
So by taking him hostage, why didn't his guards just start beating him up? Because 10,000 unarmed guys should probably take out 200 armed guys.
They should, at least according to reports. At least Pizarro had some cannons, and they didn't know what to do. Like they had no response to cannons. And so they just killed a whole mess of them. And by that point, people didn't know like how much ammunition there's no concept of ammunition or what they've got. It's confusing. If you've never seen cannons before or firearms before, it's a scary thing. So they just kind of like scatter like, and by that point they've got the emperor and like, tell them to stop, and they stop. It's a hostage thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, and then do they kill the emperor?
They get the emperor to sort of make all these decrees to give them gold. And after, in exchange for being a hostage, and eventually they do just kill him.
Wow.
Yeah. It's the same playbook that the Spanish did with the Aztecs. Like they take the emperor hostage and eventually kill him. Yeah.
Do they ever take these people back to Spain?
No. Well, there are examples where people get taken back to Spain or seem to be taken back to Spain. But no, not the high ranking folks. No.
Interesting. Now, one of my favorite movies ever growing up was The Road to El Dorado.
Okay.
Maybe my favorite movie ever.
Okay.
Which is obviously a fictitious animated film about these two guys and their quest for this lost city of gold.
Yeah.
And people constantly talk about the lost city of gold. Where is this lost city of gold? Because there's many accounts from these conquistadors that talk about, we're going down the Amazon River and there are these massive golden cities. And it seems like, at least according to from my Googles, they haven't really been found.
Yeah.
What can you say to that?
So they're not gonna. The City of Gold myth may derive from. There were some indigenous groups that I want to say the leader would like put gold dust on themselves, and it sort of made it seem like there was some gold in South America that in Central and South America that was out there. The City of Gold stuff, at least for Mesoamerica, is never going to be found, I don't think.
Are there cities of gold?
No. Well, no, probably not. Probably not. I hate to I hate to hedge, but probably not. So the reason why for Central America there isn't going to be, generally, at least for Mesoamerica, there's not going to be, is for Mesoamerica, they don't really like gold. It's okay. But gold is not the most precious substance for Mesoamerican ancient Mesoamerican societies. It's not. It's jade. And the reason it's jade is because jade is very, very hard to work. It's pretty. It's warm to the touch. If you sort of hold it for a while, it gets warm, right? It's a pretty stone. It's shiny. People like shiny things. But it's really about labor. If you think about the Americas there's no real beasts of burden at all. There's no wheel other than for children's toys. Because there are no beasts of burden to pull said wheels. My wife's always like, what about the wheelbarrow? And I have no answer to that. No one's ever found an ancient wheelbarrow. So I don't know what to do about that, right? But there's no wheels, there's no wheeled vehicles, and there's no beast of burden. The metal, there's no real metal tools. You get some things that are like bronze in South America, but generally speaking, for most of Mesoamerican prehistory, you don't really get bronze, right? Towards the end a little bit. And so because there's none of that, it means that there's a premium placed on human labor, on like how much labor you can throw at a problem. So how many warm bodies can you throw at a problem? And so things are largely solved by throwing warm bodies at a problem. So you see these pyramids, every single pyramid that you see, every block is cut with human hands, brought there by human labor. There's nothing else, right? And so I think for Central America, at least, they value that. They value that jade because it represents labor. It's like, you've had to spend a bajillion hours making this. Imagine someone with some tar or pitch on something, right? A string or something, and it's like, just start cutting. Here, what do I want you to do? I want you to spend, weeks sanding this down to make a nice carving, right? Just sitting there sanding, right? And then after you do all of that, you know what I'm going to ask you to do? You're going to put that in the ground. You're going to put that in a burial, and no one's ever going to see it, and it's going to be mine. Ha, 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 right? Again, it's part of that whole labor thing, like drinking it's part of that whole ethos, right? So for gold, the Aztecs and some of the other folks in Central America, it was okay. It was like second tier wealth, like gold and silver was kind of second tier wealth. I believe the Aztec word for it, I can't remember what the Aztec word for it, but it's something like star shit. It's basically excrement of stars. Like it's nice and it's shiny, but it's okay. For South America, like lower Central America and South America, they have a much richer tradition of metallurgy there. Much longer. You want to find good metallurgy. That's where the good metallurgy stuff is. That's where like the really good gold working is. Where a lot of that really amazing stuff is. So are there lost cities of gold? Probably not. Just because looting wise, people would have gone crazy for that. Like that would have been like one of the first things to go. Are there lost cities? Yes, there absolutely are. One of the sort of really romantic things about being an archaeologist is that, especially in a place like Central South America, is that you can still kind of go out, hack and slash, and find things. Like it's an amazing experience. LiDAR, of course, has changed things somewhat. It's made things a bit more visible. You can peel away the canopy, right? People think LiDAR is this magical solution, and I suppose it is. But the same technology that's used in LiDAR is used pretty much in every car nowadays, every modern car. So like all that like driver assist stuff, that's what that is. It's just LiDAR. Same stuff. It's just lasers. So it's changed things somewhat, but it's also really, I think, made the process of discovering sites a bit easier, certainly. But you can still go and find these things. Now, that said, it's really good at finding straight lines and straight sort of raised areas below the ground surface. You can do that. It's really sort of good at that. But yeah, there's way more. There's way more.
I mean, in terms of lost cities or lost civilizations, are there any that you feel like there's evidence that are pointing towards, like, oh, people have talked about this place and we have records about this place, but no one can seem to find where it is?
Yes. So new things are being found almost every year. These are the things that show up on your Google feed late at like 2 a.m. or something, like, found amazing city. That's kind of the stuff that gets found. I mean, I used to work at a place, again, that place, Jaguar Hill. That was a lost city. We were looking at Peter Snyder's, my first graduate project, like with the sweat bath and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know where it was. We were looking for that thing. We couldn't find it, right? Couldn't find it. Fast forward years later, we were looking at some glyphs, and the glyphs started showing up and saying, oh, this is, we started to figure out, okay, well, this is where the city is. One of my advisors at the time, David Stewart, figured out that Jaguar Hill was this place. He didn't need LiDAR. He just was looking at reading and looking at inscriptions and being like, oh, this is where that is. I think there's really nothing like going and finding something like this and being like, oh, it's, this is you're reading something, you uncover something and no one's read this for 2,000 years or whatever it is, and you being the first person to read it, there's no feeling like that in the world. Like being like, oh my God, it's like this, it's something new, right? Whether it's something mundane, like they were born, okay, great, right? Or like some magical incantation. There's nothing like that. You're sort of reading it and you're like, oh my God, like, or like finding finding a whistle in the ground. Like, what do you think I do?
Yeah, you got to blow it.
You got to blow it. You got to blow it, right? You got to blow it. Or anything like that. So you find these things and you're like, my God. And so I think there are going to be sites that will be found that are new, that are out there. If I had to point where they're going to be, they're going to be in dense forest. So places where people either haven't gone or don't want to go. So places that are like hyper dangerous. They're going to be places there, sure. As I said, I've been in places, I worked on projects where like, the site was landmined and we didn't know it, right? Or I've worked on places where it's like, as I said, I think I told you before we started this today, places where I've had to evacuate, where it's like, oh, like there are people coming to kill us. So, so like those kinds of places, there's in those regions, there's going to be those places where you'll find this. If I had to say like a big untapped area right now, it probably wouldn't be Mesoamerica. It'd probably be sort of lower Central America or Amazonia, That's ground zero for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are the experiences you've had with like cartels or narcos, basically trying to figure out what you guys are doing?
So I tend to avoid all that stuff, or I try to avoid it as much as I can, right?
Prudent.
It's prudent. I've been in situations where, like, for example, that site I was talking about, Sapotua Ball, used to work there. I was working there in the early 2000s. And at that point, the cartels in Mexico were being pretty heavily, policed by the folks in Mexico. And so what was happening is you had sort of cartel activity moving across the border from Mexico into Guatemala. And the area that I was in was like kind of ground zero for a lot of that stuff happening, where people were moving in. There were and are archaeologists who were working in like deep inside that territory. The area that I was in was not in the territory yet. And so we made the decision, was in accordance with the Guatemalan government, to take a couple of the stelae that were at the site that I was at and move those things off-site into basically to the Guatemala City Museum, where they still are. Install replicas at the site and such, right? And the reason why we did that is because we thought, when a cartel moves into an area, usually what happens is, if it's an archaeological site, probably the first thing to go is going to be big burials. So looting those pyramids, right? It's the first thing that happens.
Even to this day.
Oh yeah.
The cartel will just pull up, and if they see something cool, they'll just take it.
If the cartel takes over the site, yeah, sure. Or they'll actually take the monuments, the sculptured monuments, and they'll saw them down. So what you do is, you don't want to move like a big stone, so they'll saw the face off. And they'll saw it into pieces, and they'll load it into trucks and take it. And then it'll get sold on the art market, and it'll go into like some probably European or American, private possession. It'll be a coffee table or something. That's probably what will happen to it, right? And so we thought that was going to potentially happen to us. And so we, the site that I was working at, we're like, okay, well, we're going to have to evacuate this stuff out of here. So we sort of got some money together, and we sort of moved those things to Guatemala City. And it turned out that the cartel actually didn't take over the site that we were at, luckily. But they did take over the site next door, right down the way, and they did destroy the heck out of it. And I wasn't working there at the time, so we couldn't save it. Wow. But that's just what it is. You get these experiences with looting, and it's not just cartels; it's like everybody. As I said, people. I don't blame looters. Like, people really want to feed their families, and if you're working for, if you have steady work for 6 months out of a year, and you need to feed your family, you'll do whatever, and people will do whatever. So I don't blame them at all. I blame sort of, people who are sort of, the middlemen and such, the folks that are like selling these things to art houses, the folks that are like laundering this stuff, because this stuff gets laundered. It's like money laundering. Mm-hmm. Stuff gets laundered. I blame them, right? But I've been in situations like, there was this one time where I was in this village, and this ice cream truck rolls up, like rolls up, and they find out that I'm an archaeologist, and the guy's like, he's like, you want to come back? He's like, he opens up the back of his ice cream truck, and there's a stela back there. This piece of stela back there. And he's like, you want to see it? You want to see it? And I'm like, not really. Like, I'm like, this is like gonna, like, I don't know, like, I'd prefer not to die. Like,
it's like a setup?
No, I don't know. It's like, do you want to see it? Is this a setup? I don't know what this is. Like, is this a setup? And so I'm like, no, I don't really, he's like, do you want to buy it? I'm like, no, I don't want to buy it, but that's the kind of level at which the looting has happened. I didn't actually see it. He had it in his back in his truck, and he's like lifting it up, and I'm like, no, man. Like, how about no? Like, I don't really want to do this, right? I mean, I told people about it. I told the authorities about what was happening, but the problem is that, at least in those days, nobody's policing this stuff. And if you are policing this stuff, nobody's really doing all that much about it.
Yeah, they got bigger fish to fry.
They got bigger fish to fry, right?
Yeah.
Usually what happens is the authorities, sort of the antiquities authorities, usually try to create arrangements with locals and populations and things to like be able to see this material and to sort of take photos of it and at least have some sort of record of it, because they know they can't. You can't just like arrest everybody. Like, you can't do that. Like, you can't, right. Like, you go to a town or whatever, and like, if everybody's got a piece of something, you can't just be like, oh,
It's also like, what is the law about like finding some old stuff?
There isn't. And
it is garbage, technically.
Technically, yes. Technically, it is. No, technically it is.
An old pot from 2,000 years ago? Like, it's an old thing.
It is. I mean, where they tend to police more is in sort of the export of this stuff.
Right.
So like, it can't leave the country. And that was sort of people have this image of like archaeologists like taking stuff out of country, and it's largely Indiana Jones, right? Taking stuff out of country and such, and bringing it to museums in the West or what have you. That is something that did happen. it has been illegal for a really long time.
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to really take anything out at all. And even when we sort of want to take out something to sort of test it, sort of say radiocarbon or something like that, like you have to get like there's a huge amount of paperwork that you have to do to sort of get through that just to take out the pieces of carbon. So that stuff stays in-house and should stay in-house. That's how it's supposed to be.
Wow. Dr. Fitzsimmons, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. This is fantastic.
Of course.
Your book, Blood on the Wind, is available right now. And I'm excited to take a look at it because it really seems like it is a very tangible human experience for a period of history that I think most Americans probably don't learn a ton about, that we don't know a ton about.
Yeah.
And I think this is like a really great foray to understanding the period and the people that actually lived it. So I'm excited to jump into this. This is really cool. Anything else you want to tell the people? Any places they can find you?
I'm the only archaeologist at Middlebury College, so it's easy. It's really easy to find me. Like it's just I don't know if I'm the only archaeologist in town, but I might be. It's only a town of 8,000 people, so I don't really know. I might be right.
You're also the only guy walking around with an Atlatl. So.
I'm the only guy walking around with an Atlatl. Yeah. Well, you'll see me like I'm very oftentimes seen around campus either with an Atlatl or with like boxes of skulls or things of that sort. Plastic skulls. I don't do real human stuff. We don't do that on campus or anything like that. But yeah, check out the book. Part of the reason I wrote it was because I wanted people to actually sort of learn the names of folks. So there's like pronunciation guides in this thing and such. Learn about somebody that's not Caesar, and that's really the main thing. So,
well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Really enjoyed it.